Chapter 318. The next day early morning. Danzo-sama, Yandame-sama and Hiruben-sama invite you to the Naruto building for a meeting. A root ninja knelt on the ground and said respectfully, "I know." Danzo responded calmly and then asked, "What about the thing I asked you to do?" "The public opinion of the entire Woodleaf village is under your control." "Very good." Danzo nodded with satisfaction and walked out of the underground. Finally, it's time for this old man to bask in the sun. On the street, some people were cleaning up the ruins left by yesterday, and some gathered in groups to talk about yesterday's events. In these discussions, a passerby made a righteous voice. As a Naruto, if he can't resist the threat when danger comes and even secretly hide, that man doesn't deserve to be a Naruto. The people around hesitated. "What? No way. Naruto-sama should be restrained by something?" The righteous passerby shouted. "What's more important than saving the village? This? You don't know yet, right?" Before yesterday's chaos, Danzo-sama predicted this possibility, but our Naruto-sama didn't pay attention to it at all, which led to the subsequent disaster. Fear breeds hatred. When they fell into despair last night, of course, they hoped that Naruto-sama would save Woodleaf Village, but Naruto-sama didn't appear until the end, so of course they were dissatisfied. However, Shushi's godlike appearance later extinguished their dark thoughts for the time being. Now, after being provoked by these righteous passers-by, their hatred was reignited. Yes, that man doesn't deserve to be a Naruto. But if he doesn't deserve to be a Naruto, who else can be a Naruto? Do you want Sandaime-sama to come back? At this time, the passers-by gave another suggestion. First of all, Naruto must be strong. Second, Naruto must have a sense of responsibility and save everyone when they are in danger. What do you think? Someone clapped his hands excitedly. No matter what, it should be Garashi-sama. This time the two passers-by were dumbfounded. Wait, Garashi-sama is indeed a good candidate, but his relationship with Minato is too close. And his relationship with the Uchiha clan is also good. Don't forget the Sharingan pattern that appeared in the Kyuubi's eye last night. However, this time the situation wasn't so good. After the disaster last night, Shushi's image in everyone's mind was almost perfect. So what if Garashi-sama isn't that kind of person? That's right. In terms of strength, is there anyone more powerful than Lord Shushi? That's right. Shusama saved so many people last night. He even considered the reconstruction after the disaster. Behind them passed with a gloomy face. This is different from what he expected. Obviously, he acted faster than Shimizu Shushi, and he had the right to warn the Uchiha in advance. He was always on the front line against the Uchiha, so why didn't everyone support him? Shimizu Garashi is younger than him, more handsome than him, stronger than him, more popular than him, and more contributions than him. Apart from these, what else can that kid compare to him? Just as Danzo was feeling indignant, Garashi's voice came from his side. "Danzo-san." Danzo turned his head and snorted with dissatisfaction. "What, are you here to show off your reputation to this old man? Don't be complacent too early, this old man still has some tricks up his sleeve." Garashi shook his head slightly. "Danzo-san, can I have a word with you?" Although he didn't quite understand Garashi's purpose, Danzo naturally didn't show any fear. "Let's go, this old man is not afraid of you." At this moment in the upper conference room, Sandaime looked at the side and asked with a dignified expression, "Aren't you going to stop Danzo?" Minato sighed. "He's right, I didn't fulfill my obligation as Naruto. If I take the initiative to look for him, it will make me look guilty." Sandaime frowned. "Then you're going to let him continue to spread rumors? He just wants me to step down from the position of Naruto. In fact, this is also good." Minato was free and easy. If the person last night was really aiming for Naruto's position, stepping down as Naruto can at least prevent Naruto from being threatened. Moreover, even if I step down from the position of Naruto, it's not his turn to take over. "That's true." Sandaime nodded in agreement and then asked solemnly, "Minato, is the person who controlled the Kyuubi last night really Uchiha Madara?" Speaking of this, Minato also became serious, and after a moment of hesitation he shook his head. "I'm not sure, from what he said to the Kyuubi in the conversation with me, he does think that he's Uchiha Madara, but whether it's dojutsu or combat experience, he's far from the legendary one." Minato said, "But to say that he's not Uchiha Madara, it's difficult to find someone in the Uchiha clan who fits the criteria. Even Fugaku's dojutsu is much weaker than the masked man." Sandaime took a puff from his pipe. Could it be that the masked man is an Uchiha who went missing or died in the war, and came back to take revenge on Woodleaf after inheriting the will of Uchiha Madara? Hearing Sandame's words, Minato inexplicably thought of his disciple who was dug up after his death, but soon he shook his head in self-mockery. Bordered Soil is a good kid, but his talent is too poor. Even if he has 50 years, it's impossible for him to have such strength. Not to mention, how could such a kind Bordered Soil do such a cruel thing? Abandoning these distracting thoughts, Minato said in a deep voice, I went to see Fugako last night, and there's no powerful person on the list of those who died or went missing in the Third Shinobi World War, and it's impossible for them to grow to that level in just a few years. In other words, it's best to put the suspicious person in the first 2 Shinobi World Wars, and in the Second Shinobi World War, there was such a talented senpai who went missing. Sandame's pupils suddenly shrank. You mean Kuroto? As soon as his voice fell, he denied it himself. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible, Kuroto is dead. Moreover, even if he's still alive, he would never do anything to harm Wood Leaf. He loves the village more than anyone else. Since Sandame-sama said so, then I should be wrong. Minato didn't insist. After all, I really don't know much about Kuroto. Sandame sighed with emotion. If Kuroto is still alive, the relationship between the village and the Uchiha wouldn't be as rigid as it is now. Minato was a little surprised. He didn't expect Sandame-sama to have such a high evaluation of Kuroto. By the way, Sandame-sama, the masked man accidentally exposed a secret when he was fighting with me, that is, there may be people among the Kage of the other villages. At this moment the door was pushed open and a man in bandages walked in. Hee, the two of you are quite early. Sandame slammed the table angrily. Danzo, that bastard. With that said, Garashi looked to the side with an apologetic expression. And Minato-san, he won't let you, the former Naruto, continue to stay in the Wood Leaf clan. Although he was somewhat reluctant to part with Shina Kushina and Naruto, Minato didn't refuse. Garashi, you have done so much for me, my sacrifice is naturally nothing. Moreover, with my current reputation, it is also a good choice to stay away from the Uzumaki clan and give Naruto a normal growth environment. At that time, Danzo will announce to the public that we are going to perform a secret mission. If you miss Shina Kushina and Naruto, Minato-san, you can come back once a month. Come back once a month? Minato's eyes lit up. That's enough, that's enough. Garashi took a deep breath and continued, as for the secret mission mentioned, it is actually another reason why I agreed to leave the Wood Leaf clan temporarily. Chapter 320. Secret mission? Sandame-sama was puzzled. Isn't that the excuse Danzo used? Garashi didn't answer directly but asked about another matter. Sandame-sama, do you remember the ambush that the rock Cripsis set against me 2 years ago? How could I not remember? Sandame-sama took a puff of smoke. That was the turning point of the third shinobi. Garashi recalled and said, in that incident, I found a shadow that was secretly stirring up chaos in the shinobi world. Sandame-sama's pupils shrank. You mean in this incident there is also? Garashi nodded with a dignified expression. Yes, in the chaos last night I sensed that guy's aura again. One secretly took over the body, bewitched the Tsuchikage to start a war, and the other manipulated the Kyuubi with the intention of destroying Wood Leaf. With such dangerous existences together, it's really hard not to be concerned. Garashi said solemnly, and what makes me more concerned is, are there really only 2 of them in such an organization? Minato's expression also became serious. When the masked man fought with me, he also revealed a piece of information, that other shinobi villages may already have Kage under their control. What? Sandame-sama couldn't calm down. The other shinobi villages already have Kage under their control? How could this kind of thing be leaked? Is that guy Bordered Soil a fool? Garashi thought in his heart, but his face was full of shock. This is a big event that is enough to shake the entire shinobi world. Sandame-sama hurriedly said, then should we quickly send a warning to the other shinobi villages? Wait a minute. Garashi stopped Sandame-sama, not to mention the possibility that this was deliberately leaked by the enemy in order to provoke the gap between Wood Leaf and the other shinobi villages. Even if it was accidentally leaked by the enemy, most of the other shinobi villages are now ready to deal with it, such as removing the control and erasing this part of the enemy's memory. At that time, if we send a warning but don't get the response we deserve, it may become an excuse for the other shinobi villages to attack us. After all, Kage is too important to the village. If we're not careful, it might turn into a diplomatic incident. Minato also reconsidered. Although that guy looks stupid, he can control the Kyuubi and try to destroy Konoha. He shouldn't be a fool, right? Could it be that this guy deliberately leaked it? Even that panicked look in his eyes was just an act? Thinking of this, Minato couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Even his reaction had been taken into consideration. That fellow's scheming was truly frightening. So, you want to use this opportunity to secretly investigate them? Garashi said with a serious expression. Provoking the war, destroying the village and secretly manipulating the Kage, no matter which one it is, it shows that there is a powerful organization with terrible ambitions in the shinobi world. My idea is that it's best if we can investigate this matter in secret without alerting them. Minato let out a heavy sigh. You're right. This kind of thing can't be ignored. Sandaime frowned. But while you secretly investigate, aren't you also giving that group a chance to continue their actions? By the time you investigate it, maybe the other 4 shinobi villages have already been secretly controlled by that group of people. Garashi pondered for a moment and said, in that case, hide the fact that some of them may have already been controlled, and only mention that there is someone who intends to control Naruto so that they can be more vigilant. Minato nodded in agreement. If the news of Kage being controlled in the other shinobi villages spread out, regardless of whether it's true or not, it will make the entire shinobi world fall into a state of mutual suspicion. I didn't expect there to be such a complicated relationship behind this incident. Sandaime's expression was complicated. He only felt that the shinobi world he knew suddenly became strange. Alas, it's just that you have suffered a lot. Actually, Sandaime-sama, you don't need to worry about me. Garashi said with a longing smile. Since I was born, except for the time in Woodleaf, I've spent all my time either on missions or fighting. I haven't had a good look at this world yet. This time I can relax my mind and travel around this world. Minato laughed when he heard this. Yes, this kind of unrestrained life is something that many people envy. The more they said this, the more uncomfortable Sandaime felt. Alas, Woodleaf is so lucky to have you too. 1 hour later in Minato's house. First, there was the sound of pots and pans being turned over, followed by a loud scolding sound coming from the room. I'm going to kill that bastard Danzo. Shina Kushina took a spoon and was about to run out. Shina Kushina, calm down, calm down. Minato hugged Shina Kushina's waist, his legs stepped on the ground hard, but he was dragged by Shina Kushina. How can you tell me to calm down? Shina Kushina was mad. That bastard wants to drive you and Garashi out of Woodleaf. If worst comes to worst, I'll let Kurama go berserk again. Just say that he lost too badly at the school festival and Kurama was unhappy. Shina Kushina said confidently. Isn't it just a rumor? Who doesn't know how to say it? Minato didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Didn't you win that time? Yes. Kushina said innocently and then changed her mind. Then let's say that he deliberately let Kurama feel humiliated that time. Minato sighed. I know you don't want us to leave, but for Naruto I can only do this. Hearing Minato mention Naruto, Shina Kushina calmed down, showing a rare trace of weakness. I'm so worried that you will never come back. How can that be? Minato hugged her in his arms. Don't I come back once a month? I had a dream last night. I dreamed that in a world without Garashi, you and I were pierced by Kyuubi in the chest, bleeding a lot. Don't think too much, it's just a dream. Yes, it's just a dream. Back home, Garashi sat on the chair in front of the table with a meticulous posture. Even if there was no one else, he would never show a lazy and relaxed posture. Finally, I've come to this step. Next, I just have to wait and ferment. He has been planning to leave Woodleaf for a while, but even if it's temporary, he has to maximize the benefits. Just like this time, as long as he works a little, his image of a tragic hero will be deeply rooted in people's hearts. Moreover, the Uchiha will most likely regard him as the only savior to resolve the conflict between the Uchiha and Woodleaf. As for Danzo, he was the best candidate to crush the authority of the Uchiha. When Danzo is almost done playing, he will stand up and turn the tide. As for whether Danzo will do as he thinks, Garashi is not worried. He is still very confident in Danzo's political IQ. If it doesn't work, he can secretly influence Akatsuki to push Danzo. Woodleaf's situation is almost done. I can consider entering the next stage. Thinking of his plan, Shushi sighed to himself. While they are still making plans for one village and one clan, I have to plan for the whole world. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. Such a man, I really want to follow him regardless of everything. Hizashi's eyes were shining. I believe that he is a man who can change the world. Hayashi looked at Hizashi with surprise. It was the first time he saw such a dazzling look in his younger brother's eyes. It's because of the fate of the separation that he longs for someone to bring change. Hayashi sighed in his heart and then said seriously, don't forget, you still have Niji. Yes, I still have Niji. Hizashi took a deep breath and said with firm eyes, I will train Niji well and let him realize my dream. At the entrance of Woodleaf Village, Garashi's friends surrounded him. Because he has already scolded Danzo many times, no one cared about him here. Garashi, can we leave with you? Kurenai blinked her big eyes and asked hopefully. Well, we can also help you. Shizun nodded again and again like a chicken pecking rice. Don't be silly, I'm going out to perform a mission. How can I take you with me? Garashi gently touched their heads. Besides, I'm only leaving temporarily, it's not like I won't come back. Maybe when you come back, I'll be back in the village. In contrast, Asma and the others were much more relaxed, if you ignore the tears in their eyes. You brat, don't forget to train when you're outside. Asma and Garashi punched each other. Don't wait until the next time you come back, I'll catch up with you. Garashi laughed. I'll remember this. If I find that you haven't made any progress when I come back, don't blame me for laughing at you. Guy raised the corner of his mouth and gave him a thumbs up. Senpai, youth doesn't stop even if we can't train together. As long as we're under the same sky, I can feel your passionate heart. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I understand, I won't forget to train. Kakashi came out with a cold face. He wanted to say something but stopped and finally said, Senpai, take care. Garashi laughed. Don't always stay in the past, look forward. After everyone sent their blessings, Garashi left without looking back. He wasn't hard-hearted and leaving everyone was a very difficult choice for him. However, he couldn't stop. Sorry, I have to follow the path I planned before Otsutsuki comes. I must become stronger. According to his previous life, he couldn't hug them if he picked up the gun, and he couldn't protect them if he put down the gun. After Shushi left, the atmosphere was very quiet. Many people even began to sob softly. Seeing this, Asma looked at Mizuki and said, Mizuki, I thought you would desperately follow him. Mizuki glanced at him. Idiot. Me staying in the village is the best help to Garashi. Who are you calling an idiot? Asma stared and suddenly paused. Wait, staying in the village is the best help to Garashi, what do you mean? Garashi will come back. Mizuki said firmly, before he comes back, I will manage everything in the village for him. Manage? People are forgetful. Didn't Danzo intend to erase Garashi's traces and eliminate his influence through time? As long as I stay in the village, this kind of thing will never happen. Hearing him say this, everyone was excited. Yes, we can help Garashi if we stay in the village. It's decided, let Danzo know our strength. Chapter 322. In Yunnan Village. What? Mokutan? AI slammed the table and stood up, looking at the platform in disbelief. He asked, You mean the first Hokages would release? Yes. Sutai looked worried. Moreover, it is said that after Shimizu Garashi used Mokutan, he grabbed the Kyuubi with one hand and beat him up. Listening to him, the other ninjas couldn't believe it. Is Mokutan really that powerful? Maybe the Kyuubi is not as strong as we thought. At this time, Killer Bee shook his head. Hachi said that the Ichibi and the Nanabi together are not necessarily Kyuubi's opponent. Sutai also said. Their third Naruto only lasted a few minutes in front of the Kyuubi. The room suddenly became quiet, and only the sound of everyone swallowing their saliva could be heard. Isn't this too exaggerated? Is there another god of ninjas in Konoha? Everyone felt a wave of despair. This kind of strength was already beyond their imagination. As expected of him, AI wasn't depressed. After the shock, his eyes bloomed with a fiery light. With such an opponent, I can't relax for a moment. Seeing Raikage like this, everyone cheered up. Yes, there is nothing to be afraid of. Yes, Garashi-sama is not the kind of person who destroys the peace. The corner of Tutai's eyes twitched. Even Lord Shushi is being addressed as such? So, when you say there is nothing to be afraid of, you mean there is nothing to be afraid of? Just when Tsutai was worried about the future of Yunnan, a Chunin ran in with a shocked expression. Raikage-sama, there is big news from Woodleaf. What big news? AI suddenly gossiped. Is Shimizu's surname Senju? Oh, is he Tsunade's illegitimate son? Tsutai's eyebrows twitched. Raikage-sama, if you slander people like this, they will rush to Yunnan and beat you up. The ninja who came to report said in a trembling voice, the fourth generation Naruto has resigned, and the new Jonin Naruto is said to be Shimura Danzo. What? AI's eyes widened. What about Shimizu Garashi? It is said that he and Minato were sent on a secret mission. AI scratched his head with a confused look. What the hell is Konoha doing? Do you think you're too strong and take the initiative to weaken yourself? Rock Crypsis Village. Would escape. Shimizu Garashi, that guy. Anoki was in a trance, inexplicably recalling the fiasco he suffered in front of Madara. And would release was the power that defeated Madara. The surrounding people were also shocked. The nine-tailed beast that defeated the third Naruto was easily taken down by that guy. Is he already that strong? Shimizu Garashi, is that guy really human? That man shouldn't be the reincarnation of Kami, right? In the midst of these shocked voices, Hokage asked puzzledly, what is Woodleaf thinking? He wants to make someone like Danzo Naruto. Is it because of the warning they sent? Anoki pondered. Father, what's the warning? Kitsuchi asked. After several more cruel incidents, even if Yagura's experience as the Mizukage was still shallow, no one dared to oppose him. I know that you are hostile to him, but you still need to have the most basic respect for the strong, otherwise saying these things behind his back will only expose your weakness. Everyone was silent and asked themselves, they were actually mocking him to hide the fear in their hearts. As the one with the deepest hatred for Kirin, they were indeed afraid, they were afraid that he would rush to the village and start a massacre. That man has this kind of strength. Especially Fugu, as the only one left of the seven swordsmen, his fear of Shimizu Garashi has long been deep in his bones. Therefore he was very worried. Mizukage-sama, in case Shimizu Garashi thinks that this is our revenge, we should quickly issue a statement saying that this incident has nothing to do with us. Yagura's mouth twitched. This idiot thinks that he didn't expose enough? Don't worry about Woodleaf, from today on, Kirin will be completely closed. Chapter 323. After the meeting was over, Yagura returned to his room with a blank expression. There were already two people waiting for him. Master. Looking at Yagura, Black Zetsu chuckled. Madara-sama, you really have a bad taste. Bordered Soil's eyes were calm. If he enslaved the Mizukage he would have some pleasure, but Yagura was just a convenient tool for him. Seeing Bordered Soil's indifference, Black Zetsu joked. You just asked the Mizukage to stop their discussion, is it because you still have feelings for the past? After all, Senpai avenged Rin and he's different from those two. Bordered Soil's voice was indifferent, as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him. However, you don't have to worry, I have already cut off all feelings. That's great. That's so sad. You've been talking too much nonsense recently. Bordered Soil looked at him coldly and then asked. How is Senpai's strength compared to your body? Black Zetsu pretended to think for a moment. If it's his body in the Battle of the Valley of the End, it should be similar to him. After all, he's still too young now and he can't compare to Hashirama in his heyday. Bordered Soil's eyes were surprised. Is Madara admitting that he's not as good as Hashirama? However, when he thought about how Madara always talked about Hashirama, he didn't feel strange. Seeing Bordered Soil's strange eyes, Black Zetsu's heart thumped. He thought that his passerby evaluation was inconsistent with his identity as Madara's consciousness, which made Bordered Soil suspicious, so he quickly remedied. Of course, this is just the body in the Battle of the Valley of the End. If it's resurrected in its heyday with the Rinnegan, that guy can't compare with it at all. Bordered Soil nodded gently. With Senpai's strength, he will undoubtedly be the biggest obstacle to our plan. Black Zetsu's eyes lit up. Have you already thought of a way to get rid of him? Idiot. Bordered Soil despised him. So many precedents haven't made you understand that the conspiracy against Senpai will only backfire on you? Then what do you mean? Black Zoo's eyes twitched. Being looked down upon by others was one thing, but being looked down upon by the Bordered Soil was something he couldn't accept. Of course I'll take the initiative to avoid it. Bordered Soil said matter-of-factly, in the future as long as Senior sets foot in a place, we won't get involved. So this is your idea. Black Zoo's eyes twitched, but he had to admit it was the best idea. Could it be that I have the same IQ level as Bordered Soil? Just as Black Zoo was doubting his life, he heard Bordered Soil say, how is the negotiation with Yahiko? Black Zetsu came back to his senses and said in a low voice. That guy still doesn't trust us and is only willing to cooperate with us within a certain range. Bordered Soil pondered for a moment and said coldly, is it possible to kill him? Black Zetsu shook his head. Nagato is now beginning to face the power of Rinnegan. It's hard to guarantee that he won't notice some small movements. If that's the case, then we'll take the initiative to join him. Take the initiative to join? Bordered Soil said, join the Akatsuki, then lead them to the planned path under the name of the Akatsuki. As expected of Madara-sama, I understand. Half a month later in Takajin. I didn't expect that Garashi-sama would encounter such a thing. Yeah, I really didn't expect it. The leader of the waterfall village, Shigaya, and the Nanabai's Jinchuriki, Kana, were talking with emotion. Because of the geographical location of the waterfall village, what happened half a month ago can be regarded as news to them. In these discussions, Shibuya suddenly looked at Shizuki. Speaking of Garashi, Shizuki, is that guy willing to talk? Shizuki shook her head slightly. He still refuses to talk. This is normal. Kana sighed. For Kakuzu-senpai, the secret technique is his life-saving talisman. But we don't have time to wait any longer. Shibuya frowned. Several ninja villages heard about Kakuzu from somewhere, claiming that their ninjas were assassinated by Kakuzu. They want us to hand over Kakuzu's head as soon as possible to give them an explanation. Although Takajin's geographical location is hidden, they still have to contact the outside world. Unless they are completely self-sufficient, they can't ignore these rumors. That's indeed a bit troublesome. Kana looked dignified. Why don't we just kill them directly? Anyway, we've been living well without the secret technique for so many years. Absolutely not. Shizuki shouted loudly. Shizuki, you. Shibuya looked at her doubtfully. Ha ha ha. Shizuki laughed twice. I mean, the secret technique is a precious property created by our ancestors. How can we give it up so easily? That's true. Shibuya argued. But we can't completely ignore the warnings of other villages. Well, let's give him 3 more days. Kana suggested. In these 3 days we can't be as gentle as before. We have to use the cruelest punishment to force him to tell us the secret technique. Well, that's it. Seeing Shizuki's expression change slightly, Shibuya took the initiative to comfort her. Don't worry about it, Kana isn't saying that there's a problem with the way you were in charge of guarding Kakuzu, but in special times we can only use some special means. Shizuki smiled reluctantly. Ah, I understand. Night. Shizuki sneaked out of her room and quietly came to the place where Kakuzu was being held, then knocked out the guard. In the darkness, Kakuzu suddenly opened his eyes. Why are you here? Did something happen? Shizuki lowered her voice. Several ninja villages heard about you from somewhere and asked their leader to kill you quickly to give an explanation to their ninjas who were assassinated by you. I didn't expect that there would still be people thinking about me in prison. What an honor. Don't talk nonsense. Shizuki's breathing was a little rapid. How is the seal on your body? It's still a lot to go. Kakuzu's expression was calm. Who do you think sealed me? His seal isn't that easy to break. That's right. Shizuki nodded in agreement. I heard that the Kyubi was easily suppressed by Shimizu Garashi with Mokutan. What? Kakuzu's calm face broke in a second. Kyubi? Mokutan? What happened during this time? Keep your voice down. Shizuki warned and then explained in a low voice. It seems that some time ago someone attacked with Leaf and released the Kyubi. As a result, Shimizu Garashi used Mokutan to defeat it. Mokutan. Kakuzu's eyes were deep as if he was immersed in memories. It's indeed a very powerful force. Shizuki was taken aback and couldn't help but ask. I heard that you assassinated the first Naruto. How was it? Is Mokutan really that strong? Of course it's strong. Kakuzu sighed. After all, it's a force that can defeat me. Chapter 324. Defeating you? What's so strange about that? Shueyin complained in her heart, but she didn't intend to provoke him. Instead, she whispered, before they do anything, hurry up and teach me the rest of the Earth's grudge. Teach you? Kakuzu sneered. I don't believe that you'll take me out after learning all the contents. Then what do you want? Shueyin said irritably. Take me out of here first, then we'll talk about our business. Kakuzu said in a deep voice, anyway you poisoned me. You haven't unlocked the seal yet? Shueyin was surprised. It's just that I haven't unlocked it completely, so it's hard to fight. Kakuzu explained. He originally wanted to wait until all the seals were unlocked before escaping, but the current situation couldn't be delayed any longer. Shuyin's face was gloomy and uncertain, but in the end, greed prevailed. Of course, this was also because he believed that he was the one who poisoned him. Thinking of this, Shueyin no longer hesitated. She took out the key and walked into the cell to unlock Kakuzu's chains. In order to prevent Kakuzu from making any hand or foot seals, they actually tied him up in a big circle. Just as Shueyin unlocked Kakuzu's chains, an angry voice sounded behind him. Shueyin, what are you doing? Shuyin's body trembled and she looked back stiffly, only to see Shibuya and Sang-er standing side by side. Ha ha ha, I was worried that Kakuzu would escape, so I unlocked the chains to make sure. Then why did you beat all the guards? This, mainly because I was afraid that they would misunderstand my actions. You, don't talk nonsense with him. Song Air pulled Shibuya and said, "Let's take them down first." "I didn't want to fight with you, why do you have to force me?" Shuein sighed, "Kakuzu, let's go together?" "Kakuzu? Kakuzu." Only then did Shuein realize that Kakuzu, who was standing behind her, had turned into a clay statue at some point. In the cold weather, Shuein's whole body was trembling. Could this world still be good? Looking at the two murderous people, Shuein's forehead was dripping with cold sweat. "If I say that this is a misunderstanding, would you believe me?" A few minutes later, the scene was a mess. A corpse lay quietly on the ground. In the distance, two figures walked back in a sorry state. "Damn it, he still got away." Shigaya was unwilling to give up. "I didn't expect that Kakuzu, whose seal hasn't been completely broken, would still have such strength." Xian'er's expression was also very ugly. Because they were in the village, he did not dare to transform into a tailed beast, which gave the other party a chance to escape. "This is really troublesome. It's all because of that bastard Shueyan." Shibuya cursed and kicked Shueyan. However, the corpse that was kicked by him turned into white mist and dissipated with a bang. "Wait, that's impossible." Shigaya's eyes widened. "I clearly killed him." "It seems that he obtained a part of Earth's grudge from Kakuzu," Xian'er guessed. Shinga's expression turned ugly. "Damn it. Shueyan knows too much about the village's secrets. We need to find him as soon as possible." She nodded. "Gather all the sensor ninjas in the village and find Shueyan as soon as possible." In the darkness, Shueyan clutched her chest as she awkwardly moved forward in the wilderness. "Damn it. How dare you treat me like this? Shingu Xian'er, I will definitely come back for revenge." Shueyan's eyes were filled with resentment. "And that bastard Kakuzu, he actually left me behind and ran away alone. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable." But at this moment, a long shadow under the moonlight shone at his feet. Shueyan looked up and saw a mysterious man wearing a Shinigami mask standing in front of her. "Who are you?" Shueyan instinctively felt a sense of fear as he looked at the masked man in front of him. However, the other party did not seem to intend to talk to him. A strange light flashed in his eyes, and he lost consciousness and stood still. "Leak the news to the ninja village that has a grudge against Kakuzu, and then guide the guards to find the right time to report to Shingu." "Finally you fell into my hands?" Garashi sighed inwardly. In order to make the fake news that he intended to send appear in the ninja world with a reasonable explanation, he really put in a lot of effort. As for Kakuzu who escaped, he didn't care. It just gave him a reason to make a move on his next target. A few days later in the Rock Crypsis village. In the streets and alleys, many ninjas who returned from their missions were talking with great interest. "Hey, have you heard?" "What?" "It's the secret treasure about Takajin that has been circulating in the ninja world these days." "I also heard about it. It is said that Takajin's betrayal deliberately leaked the secrets of the village in order to resist Takajin's pursuit, revealing the entrance and the secret treasure of the village." "Tell me about it. What kind of secret treasure is it?" "Hey, don't worry, let's start with another thing. You should have heard that Takajin has the Nanabai Jinchuriki, right?" "Yeah, what's wrong? Don't you think it's strange that Takajin has a bijou? You know, even the 5 great ninja villages have a headache when a bijou goes on a rampage." "That's true. Didn't Woodleaf cause a lot of trouble when the QB went on a rampage some time ago?" "Takajin is a small ninja village. The reason why they don't worry about the bijou going on a rampage is because they have a secret treasure called Hero's Water." "Really? Can this Hero's Water suppress the bijou?" "I don't know if it's true or not, but judging from the fact that Takajin has the Nanabai, I think it's quite reliable." Beside them, Han walked by with a dignified face. This was the 4th time he heard similar news today. As a Jinchuriki, he couldn't ignore it. Chapter 325. Takajin Village. "Haven't you found him yet?" Shigaya asked with a gloomy face. "Actually, it's useless to find him now." Kana sighed. "He's already told us all the ways to enter the village. But if we can catch him," Shigaya said unwillingly, "at least we can make him stand up and explain the scam of the Hero's Water." "It's useless, do you think others will believe him?" Kana shook her head. Shigaya was silent for a moment, then angrily punched through the wall. "Damn bastard, pray that I don't catch you." At this moment, a Chunin ran over with a panicked expression and reported, "Shigaya-sama, bad news, bad news." "Calm down, what's going on?" "It's Rock Crypsis. Rock Crypsis brought a lot of people to our village." Shigaya and Kana looked at each other and saw the worry in each other's eyes. After thinking for a moment, Shigaya quickly made a decision. "Call all the ninjas in the village. Some of them will come with me to greet the guests of Rock Crypsis. and the others, lead the villagers to the shelter. Yes. At the edge of the lake. One by one, Rock Crypsis ninjas emerged from under the lake. Some scattered Takajin ninjas were on guard in the distance, not daring to come forward. And the people of Rock Crypsis didn't care about them, commenting on the surrounding scenery as if they were the masters of the village. I didn't expect the entrance to Takajin to be under the lake. No wonder no one has found it for so many years. The scenery here looks beautiful. That giant tree in the center is the sacred tree that produces the hero's water according to the trader ninja, right? It's really huge. In the midst of these discussions, Shigaya and Kana walked over from a distance with some ninjas. The surrounding Takajin ninjas quickly gathered as if they had found their backbone. Friends of Rock Crypsis, welcome to Takajin. Although Shigaya was very dissatisfied with the Rock Crypsis ninjas trespassing, he still greeted them with a smile. Ah, the Waterfall Country and the Earth Country are neighbors. Speaking of which, our two villages should be considered neighbors. Han laughed heartily. After so many years, this is the first time I visited a neighbor. How rude of me. Of course not. Shigaya said with a fake smile, it's mainly because we like peace and quiet. You like peace and quiet? Sorry for disturbing you. Of course not. But are you really just here as guests today? Actually, there are still some official matters. Han said in a deep voice, we heard that your village captured the traitor ninja Kakazu, and many of our Rock Crypsis ninjas were assassinated by him. In order to let those souls rest in peace, I hope that your village can kill that traitor ninja. Truly, whatever he was afraid of would come true. Shibuya felt a headache coming on when he heard Seiji's request. Where was he supposed to find even a single Seiji? Shibuya sighed and had an ashamed expression. I'm sorry. Kinnear said disdainfully. Do you need to make so many excuses? With that said, Shibuya also gave up on his fantasy. Drive these invaders out of Takajin. Don't think that you can compete with us just because you have a Jinchuriki. Han directly transformed into his half-tailed beast form. You're still far from that. You're too arrogant. Do you think that you can do whatever you want just because you're from the 5 major countries? Kinnear also transformed into her half-tailed beast form. Don't underestimate us, Takajin. The brief confrontation between the two Jinchuriki stirred up huge waves more than 10 meters high on the lake, forcing the ninjas on both sides to constantly retreat. They're finally fighting. In the distance, Garashi sat on a tree and watched the battle with interest. At that time in Rock Crypsis village, Han could hear the corresponding discussions no matter where he went. Naturally, it was his doing. In fact, Han's first thought of using Kakuzu as an excuse was more or less influenced by those discussions. However, this isn't enough. I need to add more fuel to the fire. Chapter 326. Because of Tsuchikage-sama's warning, Rock Crypsis didn't go all out. On the other hand, Takajin's side, because the location of the battle was their own village, they were more restrained. This made it so that the two sides fought for a few minutes without any casualties. The only ones who got angry were Han and Sanga, the two Jinchuriki. Because of the tailed beast in their body, their emotions were somewhat affected. Of course, it was still within the scope of restraint. Stop it. Sanger's scarlet pupils flashed with pride. Your own strength is indeed much stronger than mine, but the cooperation between you and your tailed beast is too poor. It's impossible to defeat me at this level. Don't be happy too early. Han was angry, but he was more convinced and looking forward to the effect of the hero water. Even an ordinary jonin like the other side with the hero water can be promoted to the point where he can compete with him. Then, with the hero water, can he stand at the peak of the Jinchuriki? At this moment, a Takajin suddenly exclaimed. It's the traitor Shuein. Wait, is the bottle in his hand? Xian'er and Han both turned their heads to look, only to see a person hugging a bottle full of water on the branch of the divine tree, sneaking around. I was discovered. Shuein was shocked and no longer hid. She hugged the bottle and ran away as if her life depended on it. She planned to go around them and escape from the bottom of the lake. Haha, you idiots can continue to fight. The hero's water is mine. Damn it. You traitor dare to come back. Xian'er abandoned Han and rushed toward Shuein with all his strength. How dare you let us Rock Crypsis attract the firepower for you? Han was also angry and jumped into the lake to swim toward Shuein. The two Jinchuriki, one flying and one swimming, the distance between them and Shuein was rapidly shrinking. However, flying is still faster than swimming. Seeing that Xian'er was about to catch up, Han directly punched the lake, stirring up a water cannon shot toward Xian'er. Although this attack was easily avoided by Xian'er, it was delayed for some time and Han caught up with it. This bastard. Xian Er was not to be outdone and attacked back with a scale powder attack. In the next few seconds the two of them kept trying to trip each other up. Suddenly a voice said, "Oh no, he's going to escape into the lake." The two people who were trying to trip each other came back to their senses. Seeing that Shui Yin was about to escape, Xian Er directly condensed chakra into a big hand to grab him. Xian Er followed suit, and the chakra that lingered around her body also condensed into a big hand to grab at Yi Shiwen. The two chakra palms collided with each other, erupting with an incomparably terrifying power. Strong winds blew, and the waves surged to the sky, as if they were going to flip the entire lake over. Oh no. Seeing this, the two of them knew that things weren't going well. They didn't have the mood to admire their masterpiece at all. Ignoring the fact that the aftershocks had yet to subside, they forcefully charged into the waves. However, other than a trace of blood, nothing else could be seen in the wave. Naturally, no one cared about Shuyan's life or death. However, the disappearance of the bottle made their hearts turn cold. The bottle containing the hero's water was broken? Han sighed, feeling that his efforts were in vain. At this time, a powerful aura of chakra suddenly erupted from his side. "Damn Rock Crypsis, I want you to pay the price." Han turned his head and saw that the other side had already transformed into the complete state in rage. "Calm down, this is just a misunderstanding." However, Xian Er couldn't hear any explanation at all. Shuyan's defection and Kakuzu's escape already made him angry. Now, Rock Crypsis is making trouble for no reason and caused them to lose the hero's water, which made him furious to the extreme. Xian Er completely lost his mind in rage and chased after Han to beat him. Although he knew that he was in the wrong, the tailed beast in Han's body didn't think so. He only knew that he was being chased and beaten by the Nanabai. For Gobi, he can ignore ordinary battles, but in a battle between Jinchuriki, he will never allow his vessel to be suppressed. The power of the tailed beast in his body continued to boil, and Han was gradually affected. Coupled with Xian Er's violence in the outside world, Han finally completely entered the complete state. Seeing the two-tailed beasts fighting in the village, Shigaya was dizzy and almost fainted. Is Takajin village? After this battle, how can the village live? No, what should be considered now is how to survive. The Rock Crypsis side was also desperate. The two Jinchuriki went berserk at the same time, and the aftermath of the battle may wipe them out. The Nanabai and Gobi were getting more and more excited, and finally they even planned to use Baijidama. Seeing the giant black ball condensing in the mouths of the two-tailed beasts, the ninjas on both sides burst into tears. "I'm dead. I'm dead for sure. Takajin is so small, even the aftermath of the collision of Baijidama can kill them. We shouldn't have come today. Shinosama, please wake up quickly. God, save us." As if a god heard their prayers, in the desperate and horrified eyes of everyone, a tall figure suddenly appeared between the two-tailed beasts. Space-time barrier. At the moment when the two Baijidama were about to collide, the space-time barrier swallowed them together. The scene was quiet for a moment, and then burst into cheers that reached the sky. "Great, we're saved. That seems to be Garashi-sama. If it's Garashi-sama, he should be able to suppress their battle, right?" Although there was a lot of tension between the Rock Shinobis and Shursui, at this time, even the Rock Shinobis were cheering loudly as if they had just survived a disaster. The two-tailed beasts were confused for a moment, staring at each other. They didn't understand where their big Baijidama went. But soon the two-tailed beasts rushed towards each other regardless. Garashi stood calmly between the two-tailed beasts, seemingly planning to stop them with his own strength. The ninjas of both sides looked at this scene nervously. Although they heard that Garashi easily suppressed the Kyubi, they didn't see it with their own eyes, and now the two-tailed beasts are going berserk. In their mind, two-tailed beasts are always more powerful than one, right? In this regard, Garashi just clasped his hands together. Sage method, would release, true thousand hands. Although using this method to deal with the Gobi and Nanabai is a bit too much, in order to leave the ninjas of both sides with the impression that he is invincible, Garashi spared no effort. A giant Buddha statue that was as big as the divine wood of the lake appeared under Shushi's feet. It controlled its arms and picked up the two-tailed beasts as if they were chickens. No matter how the two-tailed beasts struggled, they couldn't shake the Buddha statue at all. Even the Baijidama they condensed under their rage disappeared because of the absorption of chakra. This is the good thing about wood release, I can absorb their chakra openly. Garashi collected the chakra of the two-tailed beasts, but he still had time to think. The ninjas of both sides looked at this scene in shock, their jaws almost fell to the ground. Many ninjas even felt their legs go soft, as if they were worshipping a miracle. You know, those are tailed beasts. In the eyes of the world, tailed beasts are more terrible than natural disasters. But in the hands of the other party, they are no different from chickens. Such a powerful tailed beast, but he just grabbed it lightly. Our rock Crypsis fought with such a terrible enemy before? Gulp. Fortunately, the war ended early, otherwise rock Crypsis would be gone. After the chakra was absorbed, Han woke up from his berserk state. Looking at the godlike Garashi and the Nanabai who was also in the hands of the Buddha statue, he suddenly doubted his purpose. What the hell am I doing? Even if I can completely master the power of tailed beasts, what's the use in front of such a monster? Thinking of this, the ambitious Jinchuriki was hit into a salted fish mode. Revitalize rock Crypsis? Just lie down. Chapter 327. Compared to Han, Tsunger was even more shocked. He couldn't imagine how a human could be so powerful. If he could capture them with just 2 arms, wouldn't he be able to capture hundreds of tailed beasts with his other arms? When he thought about how he and his leader wanted to show off their strength in front of the other party, he felt that it was ridiculous. At this time, Garashi's voice came from the top of the Buddha statue. Can the two of you have a quiet talk now? Hearing Garashi's voice, Han's face turned black. You already have us in your hands, do you think we dare not to be quiet? Can you put us down first? It was really embarrassing to be watched like a monkey. Of course you can. However, if you continue to act recklessly, I will still arrest you. After that, Garashi controlled the Buddha statue to release its palm and throw the two of them down. When they returned to the ground, the two of them glared at each other again. However, considering that Garashi was present, they resisted the urge to attack. Seeing this, Garashi comforted them. Let's sit down and talk slowly. I don't want to talk to the intruder who destroyed the hero water. Tsunger glared at Han. Although he was a little guilty, Han didn't show his fear at this time. If you didn't fight with me, would the bottle have been broken? Tsunger was so angry that he laughed. That was originally Takejin's thing. You should be the one fighting with me. That's hard to say. Who knows if the hero water was developed by you guys using the bounty that Kakuzu sent back. If you ask me, the hero water should be identified as a suspicious stolen goods. Bullshit. Why are you scolding people? I'm not scolding people. You. Seeing that the two of them were about to start scolding each other again, Garashi quickly became the peacemaker. As a passerby, why don't I say a few words? Han and Tsunger were silent. If you want to speak, do you think we dare to stop you? First of all, Mr. Han, regarding your claim that Takejin instigated Kakuzu, do you have any evidence? Han stammered, How can I have evidence for this kind of thing? Yeah, you don't have any evidence, but you made Takejin lose the hero's water. Everyone saw it. Garashi suggested. So, I think you should compensate for this matter first, and then investigate whether there is any connection between Kakuzu and Takejin. Deal with these two matters separately. Han was depressed, but Garashi's way of handling things was indeed flawless. Next is Sir Xanthium. Garashi looked at the triumphant Shen. In any case, it's your dereliction of duty to let a wanted criminal like Kakuzu escape. If Kakuzu commits another crime in the future, the other ninja villages will definitely find you. Hearing this, Xanthium's face was bitter. Indeed, they have an inescapable responsibility in this matter. Moreover, Shuiyin revealed the matter of the hero's water. Kinnear scolded, Those idiots rock Crypsis, they didn't expect that the hero's water would return to us in the end. Garashi coughed twice, Don't tell anyone. I know. Kinnear nodded again and again, If the news of the hero's water spreads, we will be the unlucky ones. Shigaya took a small bottle, poured out some of the hero's water, and then solemnly handed the small bottle to Garashi. Garashi-sama, we Takejin can't come up with a decent gift, so we can only use this to express our gratitude. How can this be? Garashi refused again and again. The name Hero's Water, no one is more suitable for its owner than Garashi-sama. Shigaya said. Yes, Garashi-sama, please accept it. Kinnear also urged on the side. The sacred tree produces the hero's water every 100 years, and now there are only 10 years until the next one. This hero's water is enough for us. In that case. Garashi looked embarrassed, then I will accept it. Seeing that Garashi finally agreed to accept the gift, Shigaya and Kinnear nodded with satisfaction. That's right. Chapter 328. After settling the matter with Takejin, even with Garashi's state of mind, he could not help but feel excited. Finally, the collection of chakra from 1 to 9 tails was complete. A full 5 years. Garashi sighed softly. If he pursued speed, he could have completed this plan a few years earlier. But he had always been very patient. In order to not be discovered, this little bit of time was completely worth it. After sighing, Garashi used earth release, earth diving technique to burrow deep into the ground. He opened up a small room thousands of meters underground and set up various enchantments around it. Then he carefully took out the chakra that he had collected. There seemed to be a strange attraction between the 9 chakra. After appearing in this small space, they were pulled towards one direction. Is it because these chakra have no consciousness and are driven by instinct to return to the origin? Garashi looked at this scene with a little surprise. But this saves me a lot of effort to merge them. Just like Asura and Indra reincarnated as chakra, the sage of the 6 paths drifted in the world as chakra. Chakra could have the consciousness and instinct of the main body. Under Shuishi's observation, the fusion of these tailed beasts' chakra was fine at the beginning, but later on, they began to conflict and repel each other, and there were even signs of instability. Seeing this, Garashi quickly separated the chakra that had been merged together. As expected, it's still missing the outer shell. Garashi shook his head slightly. He was not too surprised by this result. Other than the chakra from 1 to 9 tails, the Geto Mazo that was used to contain them was also very important. With his current strength, it would be easy for him to snatch the Geto Mazo from Nagato. However, he did not plan to do so. On one hand, he was afraid of the Geto Mazo. He was worried that there might be a secret door left behind by the 6 paths. Although it's just a groundless guess for that kind of old monster, it can even be said to be the final winner of the Shinobi War. He will never underestimate it. In the face of an existence that could threaten his safety, he had never been afraid to assume the worst of others. His kindness was only for those who posed no threat. On the other hand, if he really did get the Geto Golem, the chakra that he put into the golem would most likely become a mini version of the Jubi. After all, the Jubi was Kagaya Otsutsuki's vessel. If Kagaya's consciousness were to descend, he couldn't guarantee that he could keep the Jubi's sovereignty in front of such an existence. Of course, it wouldn't be a problem to directly destroy the Jubi. He also left a secret door in the chakra. Therefore, what he wanted to complete was a body that was different from the Jubi. The problem now is to find a shell that can suppress chakra and prevent it from going berserk. Garashi gently retracted the 9 groups of chakra. In our world, the only thing that can compete with the power of Otsutsuki is the dragon vein. 3 nights later, Garashi rearranged the previous preparations at the location of the dragon vein in Lulon. Under his guidance, the dragon vein chakra that exuded a golden brilliance wrapped around the tailed beast chakra. Just like the last time, the fusion of the tailed beast chakra was halfway through, and the fusion appeared unstable again. However, this time the fusion didn't explode in the unstable fusion. Instead, it was suppressed by the dragon vein chakra, and after having nowhere to vent, it was aggrieved and fused together. Yes, it can be done. Garashi's eyes flashed, and he suppressed his restless heart and continued to guide the dragon vein chakra. Finally, the tailed beast chakra seemed to have accepted their fate and no longer resisted, and all of them fused together. A moment later, a perfect body exuding a pale golden light appeared in front of Garashi. Garashi took a deep breath, pressed his right hand on the chest of the golden body, and absorbed the clone into his body. This feeling is really unprecedentedly strong. Garashi closed his eyes and felt his strength. After a while, he opened his eyes, and the 5 elements of water, fire, lightning, wind, and earth danced on the fingertips of his right hand. In this state, my attributes have been completed. No, it's far more than that. Garashi looked at his palms solemnly. Under the guidance of a certain force, the 5 elements were gradually fusing together. A powerful ability that surpassed the limits of the bloodline limit, or even the bloodline elimination limit, was born in his hands. As expected, there's still a huge gap between the bloodline elimination limit and the bloodline net. Garashi sighed. It wasn't that he understood the power of the 5 elements, but it was the instinct of this body, as if it was an innate talent. However, it was a pity that there were only 5 elements and no yin and yang. After all, tailed beasts were divided into yin and yang, and the chakra that he had collected naturally couldn't represent the entire tailed beast. But even so, Garashi was already satisfied. After all, he was just a fake version of Kyubi, and he was lucky enough to reach this level. Most importantly, after the transformation of Ryumyaku chakra, this power had nothing to do with Otsutsuki, and it belonged to him alone. My current strength may be comparable to Naruto and Sasuke, who were gifted by the Rikudo. Garashi secretly evaluated his current strength in his heart. It sounded powerful, but in fact, it was just a part of the power given by the dead Rikudo. Compared with Rikudo's heyday, he was still far behind. Compared with Otsutsuki Kagaya, who didn't have any children and didn't lose his power, he was even worse, who could make Otsutsuki Kagaya afraid, was even more beyond his imagination. Alas, I'm still too weak. With such a sigh, Garashi separated the golden body from his body again. In an instant, the extremely powerful power fell back to the bottom. It's easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. After experiencing that kind of fascinating power, it's easy to get lost in falsehood. Fortunately, Garashi's mind was strong enough and he quickly calmed down. As long as I integrate with this body, I can easily beat the entire shinobi world. Even if Uchiha Madara is resurrected in his heyday with Rinnegan, he won't be an opponent in front of me. Garashi thought like this and then shook his head. Unfortunately, it doesn't make any sense. Even if I rule the whole world, when Otsutsuki comes, everything I have is just a flower in the mirror. Only strength is eternal. In Garashi's vision, he needs to let the entire shinobi world join the arms race. The experience of his previous life has already shown that war is the best incubator for the improvement of military technology. With the wisdom of the world, let the current shinobi world's ninjutsu level explode, so that he can stand on their shoulders and truly understand the mysteries of 5 elements, yin and yang, and even Kekkei Tensei. If Otsutsuki values life itself, then what he values is the wisdom developed from life itself. Of course, the premise of realizing his vision is to let the entire shinobi world give birth to more geniuses, and at the same time to make the shinobi world's environment better. Only when people have a more sense of belonging to this world, when disaster comes, in order to protect this beauty, they will burst out with greater potential. It sounds like it's possible to forcibly unify the shinobi world. But in fact, the human heart is the simplest and the most complicated thing. Those forces that are unified by him may be able to develop ninjutsu according to his arrangement on the surface, but in fact, it's impossible for them to do well. In Garashi's view, the best way should be to guide them to do it wholeheartedly, or even to exert 120% of their potential, instead of forcing them to do it. To do this, he has to spend more effort to guide people's hearts. Thinking of this, Garashi separated a part of his soul into the golden body. Then, the body shape and appearance of the golden body were constantly changing to a certain image in his mind. Looking at the eyes of the golden body gradually moving, Garashi chuckled. The task of stirring up this world will trouble you, Aizen Sasuke-san. Chapter 329. After separating a part of his soul, Garashi's strength will naturally decrease. However, with the current situation of the shinobi world, even if his strength is only 70% or 80%, he can't find anyone who can fight him. Nagato can't, Bordered Soil can't, and Black Zetsu can't. Of course, for the sake of caution, Garashi left the Flying Thunder God Jutsu on each of them. If anyone bullies him, he will immediately summon his clone. A Super Wood Leaf Jutsu who can transform, isn't he afraid of that? After leaving the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, Garashi looked at the freshly made Aizen and pondered. My main body's strongest is Yin release and Yang release, and I will focus on these two in the future, but my strongest point in the outside world is Mokutan. As for the clone, my strongest point is the jutsu of the 5 elements. In the future, I can use the advantages of this body to study the jutsu of the 5 elements. After all, I only know how to use it, but I don't understand it. Thinking of this, a funny picture suddenly appeared in Garashi's mind. The enemy spent a lot of effort to break his genjutsu and stood proudly in front of his clone, only to be told that his strongest point is actually the jutsu of the 5 elements. He has to say that it will definitely be a very interesting picture. Rock Crypsis Village. He suppressed you and the Nanabai Jinchuriki in an instant? In the Tsuchikige's office, Anoki looked at Han and asked. Han nodded again and again, super powerful. It's worthy of Mokutan. Anoki exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. For him who experienced the Warring States period, this result was not unexpected, but it still made him feel confused. This kind of opponent is just like Uchiha Madara in the past. Seeing Anoki's expression, Han touched his head and said, Actually, I don't think we need to worry about his strength growing too fast. Anoki looked at him in surprise. What did you say? No matter how troubled we are, there's no way we can deal with Qingshui Shushi. Rather than saying that we can deal with him, it's better to say that we don't even have the ability to resist. Anoki's mouth twitched vaguely. Then what do you mean? If Shimizu Garashi really had the ambition to rule the world, it wouldn't be difficult for him to do it with his ability. However, not only did he not do that, but he also didn't target us, his enemies in the past. It can be seen that he is a person who truly practices the concept of peace. If it's him, maybe he can really do it. Inoki was at a loss. How did Han become like this after going out for a while? Just because the other party didn't do anything to you? Peace built on individual strength is illusory, just like the era I once lived in. Inoki recalled and said, when Hashirama dies, the so-called peace and order will immediately become a thing of the past. It's different. Han shook his head. Compared with the first Naruto, Shimizu Garashi's biggest advantage is that he is young. When the first Naruto pacified the world, he was already 30 or 40 years old, but Shimizu Garashi is only 15 years old now. Moreover, the first Naruto died too early. Peace is just a simple concept in people's hearts. But Shimizu Garashi, if he can promote peace in this world for 50, 80 or even 100 years, then peace will become the iron rule of this world. Yes. Inoki suddenly understood and his eyes were complicated. Is it really possible to achieve peace? Kusanagi country. In a remote village, more than a dozen wandering ninjas were looking back and forth for places in the village where people might hide. Did you find that woman? I didn't see her. She can hide well. But she can't run far with a burden. She must be nearby. Continue to search. Hearing the noise from the outside world, the red-haired woman hiding under the bed and holding a baby became very determined. Absolutely can't let Karen experience my fate again. But at this moment, the hand covering the baby's mouth trembled. Obviously the baby was crying. Karen, be good, bear with it. Suddenly, the sound of fireworks and firecrackers exploding sounded outside. Fireworks? The woman was a little puzzled, and then her face suddenly changed because the baby in her arms seemed to be frightened and cried even louder. She almost couldn't hold it anymore. Finally, the sound of a baby crying sounded in the village. The woman in the dark comforted and shook the baby gently, and only then did the baby fall asleep again. When the woman held her breath and listened attentively to the outside world, she found that she couldn't hear anything. Just as she was hesitating anxiously, the bed was suddenly overturned, and this violent movement made the baby cry again. But this time, the woman had no time to comfort Karen. There were 5 fierce-looking ninjas standing in the room, and 7 or 8 people standing outside because the room was crowded. Kanna, you've made us look for you so hard. The leader of the ninjas laughed loudly. All of you get out of my way. Kanna picked up the kunai at her feet and trembled as she pointed at them and shouted. Are you planning to kill us with that toy? It's really scary. The leader of the ninjas laughed and shot out a shuriken, and the kunai in Kanna's hand flew away. Seeing this, the rest of the ninjas laughed. Kanna bit her lower lip and said, let me give Karen to someone else to raise and I'll leave with you. No need to trouble yourself. The leader of the ninjas laughed, just let us raise her. Let you raise Karen into a humanoid blood-increasing pill? Kanna sneered. Don't say that. You and your daughter are much more useful than blood-increasing pills. Hearing the leader of the ninjas say this, everyone laughed again. You bunch of bastards. Chapter 330. The rest of the ninjas jeered. Our boss is very kind, right? He even took into consideration the feelings of a pet like you. Rather than a pet, it's better to call her a domestic animal. You bastards, restrain yourselves. At least take care of Brother Yoshitsun's feelings. While Kanna was embarrassed, she couldn't help but ask, so you're not going to continue hiding it now? There's no need for that, we already have a better target. The leader of the ninjas smiled and looked at Karen in her arms. No, absolutely not. Kanna hugged Karen tightly. That's not up to you. The leader of the ninjas smiled and said, of course I'm a very kind person as long as you have 20, no 15, I'll give your daughter freedom. Kanna was so angry that she trembled. You. The leader of the ninjas didn't care about her and just patted Yoshitsun's shoulder. I'll leave the future to you. Yoshitsun held his waist and sighed. Sigh, boss, you have to get me more tonics in the future. The rest of the ninjas laughed again. Brother Yoshitsun, can you do it? If you can't, we can do it for you. Just as they were talking dirty, a soul pressure descended as if time and space had stopped. Everyone was conscious, but there was no way to control their bodies. The group of wandering ninjas stared, not understanding what was going on. Kanna looked at this scene in confusion. Why did this group of scum suddenly stop moving? One by one they froze in the pose of laughing at the sky. Performance art? At this time light footsteps were heard. In Kanna's surprised gaze, a gentle uncle with black-rimmed glasses appeared in front of her. Do you want to gain power? Kanna looked at him in a daze, and it took her a while to come back to her senses. They became like this because of you? The man in front of her didn't answer this question, but repeated it with a smile. Do you want to gain power? On one hand, she felt that he didn't look like a bad person, and on the other hand, she had the thought that things couldn't get worse, so Kanna nodded vigorously in agreement. Sir, please lend me your power. Then as you wish. The man in front of her stretched out his index finger and tapped her forehead lightly. Then, a warm current flowed through her body. Even her dried-up body became moist because of this warm current. Is this power? Kanna muttered to herself, then realized that the group of scum had regained their vitality. Strange, why does it feel like time has stopped for a few seconds? Tisk. So you guys also have this kind of illusion? Sir, you? Hearing Kanna's voice, a group of wandering ninjas looked at her in confusion. What Sama? Seeing them turn a blind eye to the Lord standing in front of her, Kanna couldn't help but ask again, can't you see the Lord standing in front of me? A group of wandering ninjas looked at each other and then laughed out loud. Woman, what nonsense are you talking about? Don't tell me you're trying to make up a ghost to scare us away. Ah, Kanna, you really have a rich imagination. So powerful, is this the power of this Lord? While Kanna was shocked, she was also full of confidence in the borrowed power. Alright, you should be done fooling around. Come back with us. Seeing the leader of the ninjas grabbing towards her, Kanna subconsciously raised her hand to stop him. The moment she raised her hand, a powerful chakra burst out of her palm, condensed into a chain, and directly penetrated the chest of the leader of the group of wandering ninjas. No, this is impossible. The leader of the ninjas looked down at his chest, and then fell straight to the ground. Boss. Several ninjas rushed to their boss and touched his nose. Boss, is he dead? Gulp. Hearing this answer, everyone present looked at Kanna with horrified eyes. This woman, when did she become so strong? Is this how to use it? Kanna muttered to herself and raised her hand to push it. A few more chains formed and killed all the ninjas who were pouncing on the leader. This time, everyone was frightened and fled for their lives. For this group of scum who wanted to turn her daughter into a livestock, Kanna naturally wouldn't let them go. She became more proficient in controlling the chakra chain and pushed it forward. The chain flexibly passed through everyone's chest. Ah! Screams echoed one after another. Yi Xing screamed with them, and after a while he realized that he seemed to be fine. Touching his chest, he looked at Kanna, moved. Kanna, you really like... Before he could finish, he was sent flying by Kanna's chain. I just want to kill you last. Hearing this murderous voice, Yi Xing was anxious and didn't care about the pain in his chest. No matter what, I am Karen's father. Do you want the child to be fatherless? Kanna's chain stopped as if she was persuaded. Yi Xing just breathed a sigh of relief and was about to speak when he heard Kanna say, It's better not to have a scumbag father like you. Wait. The chain pierced through his chest. Yi Xing looked at her in disbelief and whispered, Why? The last body fell to the ground and there was no sound except for the crying of the baby. Kanna took a deep breath and looked gratefully at the man who was still standing quietly. Sir, thank you for helping me take revenge. Seeing Kanna's hesitant look, Aizen chuckled softly. Are you worried that I will treat you like they did to you? Kanna shook her head vigorously. I am willing to do anything for you. But Karen, the reason I saved you is naturally because you have value to be used by me. I don't deny that. Aizen smiled. But unlike those fools, I don't want to hurt you. I want to train you into a force that I can rely on. But I am just an ordinary person who knows nothing. Kanna hesitated. An ordinary person? Aizen smiled. Oh, whose power do you think killed those people? Kanna was puzzled. Wasn't it your power? No, it was your power. Aizen smiled. I just guided it. Kanna lowered her head in shock and looked at her hands. My power? How about it? Do you want to be my arm? Looking at the other's gentle eyes, Kanna only felt that a ray of sunlight shone into her frozen heart. Aside from being treated as a blood bag, this was the first time in her life that she felt valued and recognized. Yes, I will be your most convenient tool. Aizen Sosuke. Aizen chuckled. From now on, carry this name. Chapter 331. Night. Aizen led Kanna through the forest as if they were on an outing. Kanna looked at Aizen's back with admiration. Ever since the grass country, she had finally witnessed Aizen's strength. They walked like this but no one could see them or hear them. Fortunately, they didn't have bad intentions, otherwise no matter what they did, they wouldn't have been discovered. While Kanna was sighing, Aizen was thinking to himself. Although I want to train them, my understanding of the Uzumaki clan is limited to sealing techniques. If I really want to train them, it would be better to find a few specialized teachers for them. Well, he definitely didn't want to be lazy. By the way, use their identity to find a few subordinates for me. He valued Kanna and her mother not only because of their potential, but also because of their identity as orphans of the Uzumaki clan. Amidst the silence, Kanna noticed that Aizen had suddenly stopped. She raised her head and looked ahead. What entered her eyes was a dilapidated ancestral hall. Where is this? Although she was puzzled, Kanna didn't ask. Finally, we're here. Aizen chuckled. Kanna, please wait for me outside. Yes. Kanna naturally didn't refuse and turned around to observe the surroundings. When they entered the ancestral hall, everything was the same except for the mask he took from the wall. There are 26 masks left. I don't know how many of them can recover their consciousness under my call. The last time he came to the Uzumaki clan's ancestral hall, he had this idea, but at that time his strength and timing weren't right, so he delayed until now. Aizen raised his right hand, and the 26 masks floated in the air and circled around him. Behind the masks there were Grim Reapers. Release! Aizen shouted, and a faint green fluorescence appeared on the surface of the masks. What he was doing now was somewhat similar to the last time. But this time he wasn't releasing the souls swallowed by the masks, he was releasing them. The masks seemed to be aware of the crisis, and the death god's shadow behind them roared, but they couldn't recover by themselves. They could only howl unwillingly under Aizen's control. Kanna couldn't help but tremble when she heard the strange howls coming from the ancestral hall. What is Aizen-sama doing? Although she was afraid, she resisted the urge to turn around. Finally, peace was restored in the ancestral hall. Not bad. 4 of the masks still have some souls. Aizen nodded. 22 masks were completely shattered, and the Grim Reaper within the masks had also lost its spirituality. As for the other 4 Death God masks, they merged with the Death God's shadow behind them. The real mask was worn on the illusory face of the Grim Reaper, as if reality and illusion were intertwined. After a long time, a sigh that seemed to come from ancient times came from the mouth of the Grim Reaper on the left. Where is this? The voice was very hoarse, as if the owner of this voice had forgotten how to speak. The voice seemed to trigger a chain reaction. The other 3 gods of death slowly opened their eyes too. Under their masks, there were no pupils in their eyes. Instead, they were gray whirlpools that were constantly rotating. It was a rather frightening sight. However, Aizen wasn't intimidated by them. Welcome back, members of the Uzumaki clan. Uzumaki clan. These 4 words seemed to have turned on some kind of switch. The 4 people in a sluggish state suddenly woke up. Even the gray vortex under the mask became a lot more lively. My name seems to be Vortex Dark Knight. Vortex of the Night? The legendary predecessor who created the corpse demon seal? You are? My name is Uzumaki Shinichi, haha, I'm just an ordinary person. Uzumaki Shinichi? Isn't that the predecessor who sacrificed himself to the Grim Reaper in order to protect his people? Huh. I'm also a predecessor? After some conversation, the 4 people exchanged their identities. Uzumaki Shigeru, the youngest of the 4. Uzumaki Chiyuki, the only female among the 4. She had died more than 100 years ago. Uzumaki Shinichi had been dead for more than 200 years according to Masaaki. Uzumaki Shigeru had died more than 600 years ago. So, how long has brother Shigeru been dead? Shinichi-senpai, isn't it a bit inappropriate to call me brother? How can I call you that? There are more than 10 generations between us. I can't call you great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson, right? That's right, I was only 18 when I died. I don't want to be your grandmother for no reason. Chiyuki-senpai, your voice doesn't sound like 18. Ahem, don't make a fool of yourself in front of outsiders. Shigeru interrupted their conversation and looked at the man standing quietly in front of them. Did you resurrect us? The 3 of them respected the creator of the corpse ghost sealing technique. They looked at Aizen and said, haha, you're right. It's obvious. Aizen chuckled. Why bother? We don't belong to this world anymore. Shigeru sighed. He wasn't grateful to the other party for waking them up. On the one hand, the dead shouldn't interfere with the living world. On the other hand, they sacrificed themselves to the Shinigami in order to increase the strength of the Uzumaki clan to resist the foreign enemies. Now that they were resurrected, wouldn't it weaken the Uzumaki clan's strength? Is that so? That's a pity. Aizen shook his head. I thought that since you sacrificed your life for the Uzumaki clan, even after death, you would be willing to contribute to the revival of the Uzumaki clan. Revival? Shigeru's eyes lit up. What do you mean? Simply put, the Uzumaki clan has been exterminated. Aizen smiled and pushed up his glasses. No, that's impossible. Speaking of which, it's been many years. I won't believe it. The four became excited. In their fury, the four of them wantonly unleashed their soul strength. As death gods who had been able to retain a trace of consciousness throughout the long years, their souls were naturally very powerful. When the four of them unleashed their soul pressure together, it was as if they had materialized, causing the entire ancestral hall to tremble. Aizen just released his Ryatsu. Although it was only a split soul that had taken over this body, Shushi, who had received a gift from the priestess and had an extremely powerful soul, was able to suppress them with just a part of his soul. Of course, this was also because the four of them didn't have a physical body. Their soul power was like rootless duckweed. In just an instant, the souls of the four people were intimidated. They were like four small streams that merged into a large river, unable to raise any waves. While the other three were still in awe of the expert who had single-handedly pacified the chaotic world, they suddenly heard that this person had died in a decisive battle. Their entire being felt unwell. What era could give birth to two such strong people at the same time? Hashirama and Madara had a fight? Aren't they best friends? Meisei was confused. Moreover, they fought before. Hashirama should be stronger. There's no reason for him to die. Was it because of his heart injury? Seeing that they were getting further and further away from the topic, Aizen coughed twice. In short, the Uzumaki clan was destroyed many years ago, but the bloodline of the clan didn't disappear completely. The four were shocked. Yes, didn't Aizen talk about reviving the Uzumaki clan? Seeing the four pairs of black eyes looking at him, Aizen chuckled. You might as well use your perception to see what's outside. Only then did the four of them realize that the dilapidated ancestral hall they were in seemed to be enveloped by a layer of barrier. Releasing their senses, they quickly discovered a red-haired woman standing outside, holding a baby who also had red hair, but whose hair was rather sparse. Red hair, this iconic characteristic immediately scratched their itch. Who is she? There's no doubt that she's an Uzumaki. Hearing this, the four were overjoyed. Great. I didn't expect to see a clansman. Chishua looked at Aizen with wide eyes. So, you're the father of that child? Aizen sighed. Don't think too much. I just saved her from the demon's Denver. Demon's den? Look at her body carefully. We should be able to find some problems. Puzzled, they extended their senses and found countless bite marks on the parts of the woman's body that were exposed outside her clothes, her palms and neck. What the hell is going on? Even if they didn't have a physical body, the four were so angry that their souls were trembling. Without the protection of their clan, what will happen to the Uzumaki who are born with various special abilities? Aizen's words broke their psychological defense. Humans like them are lucky enough to become medical ninja beasts. Because of the greed of outsiders, it's been difficult to find the Uzumaki in this world. You know, there were many Uzumaki who escaped when their clan was destroyed. Hearing this, the four who were easily affected went crazy again. Unforgivable, absolutely unforgivable. I'll kill those bastards. Those who dared to humiliate them, I won't let them go. This time, Aizen didn't stop them. He just stood there quietly and waited for them to vent. After a long time, the four calmed down. Sir, what do you need us to do? Obviously, their attitude had changed again. You don't have to worry. I just want you to help me take care of them. Aizen smiled and pointed outside the ancestral hall. Just that? The four couldn't believe it. Such conditions were too good. Moreover, they would do it even if Aizen didn't tell them. Of course. What else do you think is worth me coveting? Aizen smiled. He wasn't lying. For him, taking care of Kanna and her mother was enough. In the future, if he really had a mission for the mother and daughter to do, wouldn't these old fellows follow them eagerly? Moreover, he would have more subordinates in the future. For the sake of Kanna and her mother's status, these old guys would take the initiative to ask him to use them. Haha, of course we're willing. Yaya said awkwardly. After all, he was the one who said that they didn't belong to this world and didn't want to interfere with it. But when it came to the Uzumaki, he immediately agreed. The path of the Uzumaki and my path don't conflict. Aizen continued. My dream is to change the order of this world. Follow me and I will lead you to the Uzumaki's revenge and revival. Chapter 333. After making an agreement, Aizen looked at the four and asked, Will you live in these masks from now on? The four looked at each other and nodded. That's the only way. Ordinary people's bodies can't carry our souls. Aizen nodded. One of the 3 conditions for Edo Tensei was to extract a certain amount of the deceased's body. The 4 of them didn't even have a body, let alone ashes. Although they could use their souls to fight for a short time, it wasn't a long-term plan. When the time is right, I will find you a suitable body. Aizen said softly as he looked up at the moon hanging in the night sky. Although the 4 didn't understand what he was thinking, they didn't say anything. After making a promise, Aizen returned their souls to the masks. Then he unsealed some fake masks and hung them on the wall. He made these masks on the way here. Although they didn't contain the power of a Shinigami, they were enough to confuse people who didn't know about them. Outside the ancestral hall, Kana was shivering in the cold night wind. Suddenly, the sound of light footsteps came from behind her, causing her to happily turn her head back. Aizen-sama. Thank you for waiting here. It's no trouble. Kana shook her head and looked at the masks in Aizen's hand. Did Aizen enter the ancestral hall for these 4 masks? She had her doubts, but she didn't ask. However, Aizen smiled gently. Are you looking at these masks? I specially got this for you and Karen. Kana pointed at herself in disbelief. Especially for us? Of course. Aizen smiled. Step back. Kana took a few steps back. Aizen waved the masks in his hand. Come out and meet her. Come out? Who wants to come out? Kana was puzzled. Suddenly, 4 ghosts floated out of the masks. Their eye sockets were empty and ghostly flames were flickering. They looked terrifying. Although she was frightened by the ghosts, Kana still mustered up the courage to ask Aizen. Aizen-sama, who are they? They are the undead of the Uzumaki clan. Aizen introduced. They are your ancestors and the teachers I found for you. Ancestor? Teacher? Kana repeated, then looked at the undead. Kana was not interested in this so-called ancestor. When she experienced hardship and was bullied, she did not see her ancestor. When she encountered danger and fell into a desperate situation, she still did not see her ancestor. Now that he had appeared, what was the use? She only knew that the person who saved her and Karen was Lord Aizen. The one who gave them a stable life and found them a teacher was Lord Aizen. As for these ancestors, although she didn't hate them, she couldn't get close to them either. However, she could see that Lord Aizen valued these ancestors, so she didn't show too much resistance. Instead, she was just shy and reserved. Greetings, ancestors. Ha ha ha, you too. Although they could see Kana's estrangement, the 4 of them didn't care. To be able to sacrifice themselves as Shinigami, the 4 of them were naturally very dedicated. Now that they saw Kana and Karen, it was like seeing the future of the Uzumaki clan. They were overjoyed, so how could they blame her? Aizen handed the 4 masks to Kana. These masks are for your safekeeping. Kana took the masks carefully. Yes. After this small episode, Aizen set off for the Land of Iron. On one hand, he was interested in the training methods of the samurai. On the other hand, he wanted to inadvertently make some noise to attract the attention of the Akatsuki. On the way, he didn't stop for too long. Although he planned to continue to adopt the geniuses that appeared in the original plot, such as Haku, Kimimaro, Yugo, and the others, he still needed to see the right time. Just like Kana, the reason why he appeared at the right time was because Wu Wei passed the information about the Land of Grass. Of course, Wu Wei didn't know that his target was Kana, because he gave the order to pay attention to the red-haired people in the Land of Grass. In fact, there were many red-haired people in the Land of Grass. A few days later, Aizen and his group arrived at the capital of the Land of Iron. It's so prosperous. Walking on the street, Kana looked at everything around her in surprise. There were people selling things, children chasing each other, and people laughing and chatting. It was completely different from what she saw in the Land of Grass. Yes, it's a rare pure land. Aizen nodded slightly. Because of the powerful samurai group in the Land of Iron and the fact that it was a neutral territory, the Land of Iron was rarely disturbed by the outside world. Even the waves of the previous shinobi wars didn't affect the Land of Iron. It's good to have a place without fighting. Kana sighed. No fighting? How is that possible? Aizen smiled and shook his head. These samurai are martial artists, fighting is the norm. But this isn't. Because the Land of Iron is a place for the samurai to exhaust their energy and resolve disputes, and it's the place I plan to go next. While they were talking, the 4 masks in Kana's backpack were chatting with each other. Samurai's duel? Does he know swordsmanship? No way. His genjutsu is ridiculously strong. In terms of genjutsu, he may be stronger than Uchiha Madara. Uchiha Madara? The one who can control the Kyuubi with genjutsu? Can't Aizen-sama also control the Kyuubi? It's not the same. Uchiha Madara can do that mainly because of his Sharingan. Along the way they finally witnessed the magic of the other party. It was like a passive ability. It was a powerful illusion that could make people lose their minds without any warning. Even these old antiques were shocked. In their time they had never seen such a powerful genjutsu. Because of this, they were more convinced of the mysterious Aizen-sama's abilities. In the other direction of the capital, it wasn't as bustling as the market, but it was more lively. Even if they were a few hundred meters away, they could hear the enthusiastic cheers coming from the duel field. It was still a cold winter day, but the fiery passion seemed to dispel the cold. Is this the place where Aizen-sama is going to train? Kana wasn't worried. In her opinion, there was no one more powerful than Aizen-sama. Let's go in. Aizen smiled and pressed down on the sword he had bought and hung at his waist. He then led Chanel to the duel arena. Chapter 334. Whoa. It's a fierce duel. On the high platform of the duel arena, the host shouted at the top of his lungs, "The 100 Winds Warrior's Iaedo slash is indeed super sharp, but the person he is facing is the sword hero Mizuki, who is known as Broken River. Can he really succeed?" Oh no, Hayakum's blade was broken and he fell to the ground. It seems the result of this duel is obvious. Let's cheer for sword hero Mizuki. Under his call, the entire arena erupted into cheers and shouts. Oh, oh. As expected of the sword hero, his swordsmanship is amazing. In the room specially prepared for the contestants, Aizen shook his head. Sword hero? It's quite a strange name in the ninja world. In this noisy environment, Kana raised her voice and asked, "Aizen-sama, which match are you in?" Aizen looked at the number in his hand and said, "I'm in the 17th match. Oh, there are only 2 matches left. I will definitely record your heroic bearing," Kana said while waving the small camera in her hand. "Thank you." Aizen laughed softly. The old antiques in the masks floated out and surrounded the camera, clicking their tongues in wonder. There was no such thing in our era. This is the power called technology? It's amazing. While they were talking, there was a loud cheer outside and someone called Aizen's number. These samurai didn't have much chakra, and their swordsmanship was mostly about speed, accuracy, and ruthlessness, so it didn't take long for it to be Aizen's turn. "I'm going up," Aizen said and calmly walked to the stage. Opposite him was a samurai with 2 swords. At this time, the host's excited voice came from the stage again. This time, it's wandering samurai Aizen against Lone Wolf. Lone Wolf's swordsmanship is as fast as lightning, and although Aizen is a newcomer, he must be quite strong since he can wander in the chaotic ninja world. Now let's give the time to the 2 samurai. You talk too much nonsense. Lone Wolf looked at the high platform unhappily and said coldly, "Newbie, you go first. Don't say I didn't give you a chance." "Thank you." Aizen smiled and pulled out his sword from his waist. Although he was not very proficient in sword arts was a combination of strength, speed, reaction, and sword skills. With his physical attributes and eyesight in addition to his superior physical skills, he could be considered a sword arts master. "Be careful, I'm about to make my move." With a flash of sword light, Lone Wolf was instantly sent flying. The cheers from the audience were stagnant. Clearly, they had not recovered from this sudden turn of events. I'm not dead?" Lone Wolf got up from the ground. Ignoring the pain in his chest, he touched his body in fear and muttered to himself, "What happened just now?" "That's right, it's sword pressure. His sword stopped in front of me, and just the wind pressure from the blade was enough to send me flying." Thinking of this, Lone Wolf looked at Aizen in shock. Where did this guy come from? Even the new admiral of the Sanfune isn't as strong as him. Not bad. Aizen commented calmly in his heart. From his point of view, this Lone Wolf was almost at the level of a Chunin who specialized in body techniques. Unfortunately, the difference between them was too great. At this time, the audience finally recovered from the shock and erupted into cheers that almost overturned the arena. Did I see it wrong? Lone Wolf was defeated in one move. Could it be that Lone Wolf fixed the match? Go and show me a fake match where you can make a big hole in the ground even if you lie back. Too powerful. This Aizen-sama must be a great swordsman. Especially the host, he was so excited that his voice was hoarse. There is no doubt that we have another strong fighter. Shout his name with me. Aizen Sosuke. However, Aizen did not go down, he continued to stay on the stage. Seeing this, the host was even more excited. Aizen stayed on the stage. What does this mean? Is he going to defend the stage? Although he is very strong, this is the land of iron where samurai grew up. Can you watch him be so arrogant? The audience was either excited or heckling. No, no. Then let's start. Let this samurai know the power of the land of iron. After half a day, the originally lively arena was completely silent. No matter who the opponent was, they couldn't make a second move in front of Aizen. Even the swordsmen were the same. Even if it was a battle of attrition, Aizen's stamina seemed endless. He was too strong. He was simply overwhelmingly strong. For Aizen it was really easy. The land of iron was very strong, but it was still far from the 5 great countries. Being able to reach the level of a jonin was already the highest level in the land of iron. As for ordinary jonins, he could already kill them a few years ago. Although he was not familiar with swordsmanship, his body was stronger than his real body. It was normal for him to achieve this result. 3 days later, in the Admiral's mansion. Mifune-sama, how was the result of your operation? A tall samurai in front of Mifune asked. Of course, all of them were eliminated. Mifune took off his helmet and said happily, "That's good." The tall samurai nodded. Many people were dissatisfied with you being the admiral. With this result, they should be able to shut up. Mifune shook his head and smiled. Musashi, I didn't eliminate the bandits for my own position. I know you don't have such thoughts. Musashi smiled. By the way, Musashi, did anything big happen in the capital while I was away? Mifune asked. If you want to talk about big things, maybe. Don't get excited, it's not a bad thing. Musashi explained. A few days ago, a wandering samurai called Aizen came and made a name for himself in the duel arena. Defeating 100 people in a row, that's not easy. Mifune was surprised. It's easy. Musashi shook his head. He defeated his opponent with 1 sword strike. Almost all the masters in the capital went to challenge him, but no one was his opponent. 1 sword strike. Mifune's eyes lit up. You also went to challenge him? Musashi was a little embarrassed. I barely held on until he used his 3rd strike. That's already very powerful. Mifune comforted his friend. Didn't you say that most people can't even take 1 strike from him? You don't have to comfort me. There's nothing to be sad about losing to such a strong person. However, watching a wandering samurai strut around in a samurai country is really unacceptable. Musashi looked at Mifune with bright eyes. Mifune, only you can defeat him. In his opinion, Mifune could defeat Aizen. If it were the 5 major countries, Mifune would be like their kage. Compared to ordinary samurai like them, Mifune's strength was far superior. You don't have to provoke me. Mifune smiled and shook his head. He then clenched the hilt of his sword. I also want to see such a strong person. Chapter 335. The next day, the duel. Looking at the fierce battle in the arena, the audience on the spectator stands were discussing excitedly. Amazing, this guy is a powerful swordsman. What's this? Yesterday there was a 2 swordsman. What swordsman, 2 swordsmen? I don't understand. Stupid, if you can take 1 strike from Aizen, you're a swordsman. If you can take 2 strikes, you're a 2 swordsman. Huh. How can it be divided like that? In the beginning, there were indeed many people who were unconvinced and indignant. However, after a few days they were more or less numb from the blows. Those ninjas always looked down on samurai, now they're such a powerful samurai, isn't it a good thing? Thinking of this, they didn't feel ashamed of losing to him, but proud of it. That's why the scene in front of them appeared. Hearing his friend's explanation and seeing the proud expressions of the defeated warriors, Mifune felt that this world was a little strange. Where's your pride as a samurai? However, after seeing Aizen's strength, he began to understand what they were thinking. He's really strong. Mifune's eyes were full of fighting spirit. He recalled the time when he was defeated by Hanzo the Salamander. The next challenger, Mifune? At this point, the host's excited voice suddenly stopped, as if he had seen something incredible. He let out a strange cry, Admiral, Admiral Mifune? Hearing the host's exclamation, the audience was excited again. What? The Admiral is also here? Can Admiral Mifune win? I don't know. Although Admiral Mifune is the most powerful samurai in the Land of Iron, his opponent is also very strong. It's so exciting, these 2 are standing at the top of the samurai world. Hearing his name, Mifune took a deep breath and walked step by step with a solemn face. As a samurai, 48 years old should be his prime. Although his experience in kendo still have room to grow, his physical strength is already declining. I'm lucky to meet such a strong opponent at this time. Mifune sighed and stood in front of Aizen. Admiral Mifune, I have been waiting for you for a long time. Aizen smiled. Please show me the pinnacle of samurai. Mifune was a little surprised. Aren't you one? I am ashamed to say this, but I only relied on my strength, speed, vision, and experience to defeat them. Aizen sighed. In terms of skill alone, I cannot compare to you. Sir Aizen, you're exaggerating. Mifune had a good impression of the other party's willingness to admit that he had a physical advantage. Swordsmanship is a combination of mind, body, and technique. Pure technique is only a part of swordsmanship. In short, please let me experience it in battle. Then please excuse my rudeness. Aedo, a waning moon. Mifune poured all of his energy into his attack. With a flash of his blade, a crescent moon cut through the air towards Aizen. It's actually Chopper. Aizen was surprised. No wonder people say that ordinary ninjas don't even have the time to perform hand seals in front of a jutsu master. In terms of pure attack speed, perhaps even the weaker Kage couldn't reach this level. However, it was still a little weak for him. Aizen also used a sword draw, and the wind blade bounced off his opponent's sword strike. The bounced attack fell to the side, leaving a long and narrow gully in the thick ground. You actually used a chopper bullet to block my attack. Mifune's mind was shaken, but his hand movements did not slow down at all. While moving quickly, he sent out a few fierce and violent slashes. Lightning speed, meteor slash. Sword energy danced in the sky like a meteor. The energy blade and chakra intertwined with each other, erupting a powerful aura. Compared to Mifune's attack, Aizen simply waved his sword, and with pure power, he sent out a huge wave of energy that was more than 10 meters long. The attacks from both sides collided with each other, creating a huge tornado that connected the sky and the earth. This wasn't an ordinary tornado, but a sword storm formed by countless small attacks. The audience widened their eyes, afraid to miss a single scene. Amazing. We samurai can be so strong. They're too strong they could be called sword saints in the past. Amidst the wanton airwaves, the three ships seized the opportunity to rush forward and engage in close combat with the other party. Aizen waved his sword elegantly, and in a flash, he was in front of Mifune. Mifune subconsciously raised his sword to block, but as soon as he did, his face changed. The power coming from the blade was so strong that he almost lost his grip on the sword and it almost slipped out of his hand. Mifune took a deep breath, and his arms that held the sword suddenly swelled. The veins on his arms bulged like a python. Ah! Mifune roared, and the sudden burst of power sent his opponent flying. Aizen, on the other hand, jumped in the air and rushed back faster than when he was sent flying. With the speed bonus, the impact was so strong that even Mifune, who had strengthened his muscles, couldn't block it. As soon as they came into contact, Mifune was sent flying by an unstoppable force and slammed into the wall. However, he didn't have time to recover. While he was still embedded in the wall, Aizen sent a sharp kenki towards him. Mifune slapped the wall behind him with his left hand and spun to avoid the attack. Then he bent his legs and used the recoil to jump towards his opponent. He leaped into the air and slashed down with an indomitable momentum, as if he was going to split the earth. Aizen stood still with his sword, and when his opponent's attack was about to hit him, he raised his sword. Boom! A powerful blast of air exploded like a thunderclap. The kenki scattered in all directions, leaving dense holes in the hard ground. Then the three ships were thrown out again. Seeing this, the four ghosts in the room were silent. After a while they spoke with difficulty. Monster. A monster among monsters. Even in their eyes, the samurai named Mifune was already powerful enough. But in front of Aizen he couldn't even resist. The most important thing is that they know that Aizen bought the sword on the way here. In other words, this swordsmanship was just for fun. Even so, it was difficult for the admiral of the three ships to withstand. The battle in the field was still going on. What a powerful opponent. Mifune sighed. Although Aizen didn't know much about swordsmanship, his every move was aimed at his opponent's vital points. He simplified swordsmanship to the extreme. That's why it looked so messy. Is this the realm of simplifying the complicated and not working at all? Mifune said to himself. Then he sheathed his sword and prepared to attack. Sir Aizen, please take my last attack. Simplification? I really don't know swordsmanship. I've never been complicated before. Aizen sighed. He didn't explain and just stood there calmly. Come. Aedo, Soul Breaker. A dazzling light flashed as Mifune appeared in front of Aizen and slashed down. Aizen felt a trace of danger from this speed. Unfortunately, it was only a trace of danger. When he used his full strength, the result was already decided. With a loud boom, the 3 ships were sent flying, and the long swords that they were holding were also sent spinning away. As a samurai, he couldn't even hold his sword. Obviously, the outcome was clear. Although they had already predicted the outcome from the previous decline of the 3 ships, when this scene really happened, the warriors on the spectator stand still couldn't believe it. No matter what, he was still a general of the Land of Iron, the most powerful warrior in the Land of Iron. Is this a lie? Mifune actually lost. He's already very strong. Mifune is at least in the 100 Swords realm. Even the 4 ghosts in the spectator room fell into a daze. Who is Surizen? First, genjutsu, then swordsmanship. Is he also good at 5 elements release in medical ninjutsu? Why don't you say he's also proficient in sealing and space-time ninjutsu? Haha, that's right. It's impossible. Chapter 336. The next day, the news of the defeat of the Land of Iron's shogun spread in a small area. If the kage of the 5 great shinobi villages were defeated, the news would definitely spread like a whirlwind throughout the ninja world. But if it was the Land of Iron or a battle between samurai, the average ninja wouldn't care at all. After all, ninjas have been the mainstream of this world for too long. In their view, the so-called samurai duel is no different from children playing house. In this case, even the battle of the Land of Iron's shogun is difficult to attract attention. However, for those who have been inquiring about the news, this information was still noticed. Land of Rain in an abandoned building. Is Hanzo still unwilling to fight with us? Nagato asked coldly. Until we find a way to deal with your ability, he probably won't show up. Yahiko shook his head and said, "Humph, coward." Nagato sneered. "Don't underestimate him." Yahiko said with a dignified expression. "Last time, didn't he wait for you to be exhausted before he came back to attack? If it weren't for Senpai, he would have won by now." Nagato was somewhat unconvinced. "Last time I wasn't familiar with the power, but this time I won't show any signs of exhaustion." Yahiko sighed. "The power of the eyes is too heavy for you, don't use it if you can." Nagato wanted to say something, but he saw Conan excitedly flapping his paper wings and flying back. "Conan, you look so happy, did something good happen?" Yahiko asked with a smile. "Of course it's something good." Conan scattered his wings and lightly landed on the ground. "I may have found the whereabouts of my benefactor." "Really?" Nagato asked excitedly. "Although I'm not sure, it's very likely." Conan took out a few photos and handed them over. "Look." The two took the photos and saw the scene of the battle between 2 samurai, but their speed was too fast, so the photos only captured 2 blurry afterimages. After flipping through a few mosaics, the 2 of them finally found a clearer picture. Before Yahiko could say anything, Nagato was already excited. "That's right, this is the dress." Although he's not wearing a mask, his temperament can't be concealed. "Speaking of masks, take a look at this." Conan handed him another photo. It was a red-haired woman holding a baby. Yahiko was a little puzzled. "Is there a problem?" "This woman is with him," Conan explained first and then said, "Look at the backpack she's carrying." "Backpack?" Yahiko squinted his eyes and looked over. After a while he exclaimed, "I think I can see a horn in the backpack. Could it be the horn on the Grim Reaper's mask that you guys were talking about?" "Very likely." Conan nodded. "Besides, the woman and the child's characteristics are also worth paying attention to." At this time Nagato, who had been silent since he saw the woman's photo, suddenly said, "It's the hair." I still remember that during the Chunin exam, Garashi said that the most obvious characteristic of the Uzumaki clan is their red hair. "Yeah." Conan nodded slightly. "Although it can't be said that the red-haired woman is an Uzumaki, they are with the uncle who is suspected to be our benefactor. If we connect all these together, we can have a reasonable guess." "I know." Yahiko clapped his hands. "This uncle is our benefactor. He saved us last time because Nagato and his wife and daughter are Uzumaki." "Wife and daughter?" Conan was surprised. "How do you know?" "Isn't it?" Yahiko laughed. "I think it's quite similar. Instead of guessing, it's better to take the initiative to find him," Conan suggested. Yahiko was the first to agree. "I've been wanting to thank him for a long time. Nagato, what about you?" Seeing both of them looking at him, Nagato, who was still shocked by the news, nodded. "Let's go now." Land of Iron, General's Mansion. "Surizen, are you really not going to live in the Land of Iron?" Mifune asked with some regret. "No, I want to see more of the scenery." Aizen declined with a smile. Yes, with your strength, ordinary opponents can't make you improve. Mifune sighed. If you want to become stronger, you can only learn from nature. That's not it. Aizen said humbly. I came this time to learn the Land of Iron's body forging technique. Body forging technique? Mifune wondered. Does Sir Aizen not have it? Of course not, but I think the ninjas can replace the samurai. In addition to the magic of ninjutsu, the main reason is the superior refining method. Refining chakra requires a combination of physical and spiritual energy, but body forging technique only requires physical energy. It should be easier than refining chakra, but in fact it's the opposite. After a pause, Aizen sighed. So, I think if I can create a more efficient way to use physical energy, it might not be able to replace the ninjas, but it can at least restore some of the samurai's decline. Mifune was shocked. Sir Aizen is collecting body forging technique for the future of the samurai? You're even challenging the weak to experience it? Aizen laughed. It's a bold idea, I'm sorry. I didn't expect Sir Aizen to be doing such a great thing. Mifune sighed and then said in a trembling voice, Please let me do my part. Let me collect the body forging methods of the Land of Iron. Although it's not as good as ninjas, samurai have also developed a lot of methods to temper the body over a long period of time, such as breathing method, medicinal bath method, hammering method, and a series of other methods. Aizen hesitated. Isn't this too troublesome? Mifune shook his head. Compared to your idea, it's just a trivial matter. In that case, I'll give you a gift in return. Aizen took out a scroll. This is a new body forging technique I collected from Woodleaf. It's amazing, but the ninjas are too arrogant. Few are willing to waste time on it. Using Morio as a blueprint, and after his and Orochimaru's joint research, they finally came up with Konoha's body forging version 1.0, the Rising Sun. Although it was much better than the average body forging technique, it still didn't reach his ideal effect. There was no other way. There were too few research materials. Even if he did it himself, it would be difficult to provide much data. Mifune didn't know what he was thinking and was still hesitating. Woodleaf's body forging technique? Won't it cause a dispute? The other side was a wandering samurai, so naturally he didn't care. But after all, he was a general of the Land of Iron. Don't worry, although Woodleaf doesn't treat his own people well, he's always good to outsiders. Aizen said. You just need to send a messenger to flatter him and ask Woodleaf to make a copy of the body forging technique for you. After all, the ninjas don't value body forging techniques. It seems so. Mifune suddenly understood and immediately became firm in his belief. Since Sir Aizen strongly recommends this body forging method, I will definitely give it a try. Chapter 337. A few days later, in a room of a hostel. Mifune Admiral is really swift and decisive. He found so many training methods in just a few days. Aizen sighed as he looked at the mountain of scrolls in front of him. However, it wasn't surprising that Mifune was so cooperative. On the one hand, these training methods were just basic things, so they weren't valuable. On the other hand, collecting training methods proved that he was developing a new training method. Otherwise, why would he need so many training methods? Of course, in the end, strength was everything. Just like an ordinary person, no one would care if they shouted for peace. But if the same words came from the mouth of the first Naruto, it would be regarded as a standard. Mifune was looking forward to the method of efficiently using the body's energy. Suddenly, Kana's voice came from outside the door. Aizen-sama. Please come in. Opening the door, Kana came in with food. Aizen-sama, I brought you lunch. Sorry to trouble you. Aizen smiled and looked outside. Friends outside, don't you want to come in? Sorry. Accompanied by this voice, 2 men and a woman walked in. Seeing this, Kana quickly put the food on the table and stood in front of Aizen. Who are you? If you come closer, don't blame me for being rude. Although her potential wasn't weak, it took time to draw out the power in her body. She had only been cultivating for a few days, so she couldn't be that strong. The reason why she was so confident was that she could close the door and release 4 ghosts at once. Don't worry, we're not bad people. Yahiko smiled and pushed Nagato. Look, this guy has the same hair as you. He's also an Uzumaki. Seeing him directly mention the Uzumaki clan, Kana's heart relaxed. After all, she had been taught by the 4 ancestors for a while and knew some of the characteristics of the Uzumaki clan. However, she didn't give in. It's no use trying to get close. If you don't tell me your purpose, I won't let you get close to Aizen-sama. Yahiko had no choice but to wave at Aizen. Senpai, are you the one who saved us from Hanzo? Aizen chuckled. That's me. Huh. You admitted it. Seeing him admit it so quickly, the three were dumbfounded. Shouldn't he deny it, then they'll take evidence, deny it, take evidence, and finally admit it? Since you're here, what's the point of me denying it? Aizen chuckled. Besides, I didn't do anything shameful, right? Haha, as expected of Senpai. Yahiko grinned. Senpai's straightforwardness was to his liking. Hearing their conversation, Kana's eyes softened. Have you been saved by Sir Aizen as well? Aizen-sama. Yahiko was surprised. Also? Sister, were you also saved by Senpai? She glanced at Aizen and saw that he didn't stop her. She rolled up her sleeves and said calmly. Because of the strong vitality of the Uzumaki, I was treated as a medical ninja until Aizen-sama appeared and took me away from the abyss. Looking at the bite marks on her arm, the three subconsciously moved their eyes to other parts of her body. Although they were covered by her clothes, they could still see the teeth marks. Conan bit his lower lip. Those people are too much. Nagato's eyes were cold. A group of scum. He was also an Uzumaki, but he was much luckier than them. At least he had his teacher and a close friend who was always by his side. She shook her head slightly. I'm lucky enough to meet Aizen-sama. Not a wife and daughter. Yahiko's guess was wrong and he sighed in frustration. I thought that Senpai's wife and daughter are both from the Uzumaki clan, so he saved us for the sake of our clan. Wife and daughter, how can you talk nonsense about this? Kana's eyes were dizzy, and steam was rising from the top of her head. She was almost turning into a steam girl. Actually, I saved you and Kana because of the Uzumaki. Aizen sighed. What? Yahiko was surprised. Senpai, are you also an Uzumaki? Is it because of a genetic mutation that you don't have red hair? Hearing this, everyone looked at Aizen curiously. It's just that when I see the Uzumaki's experience, I can't help but feel sad. Aizen's eyes flashed with a trace of loneliness. Was Senpai's family also exterminated? They secretly guessed but didn't ask more. Seeing the atmosphere suddenly become heavy, Yahiko clapped his hands and changed the topic. Sister, you're from Nagato, do you want to join our organization? Kana was confused. Although she had a good impression of these people, wasn't it too hasty to invite them to join the organization for the first time? Seeing Kana's stunned expression, Yahiko introduced her. Our organization was established to achieve the final peace. It's an organization full of ideals, responsibilities, and vitality. Kana was silent for a moment. I will only follow behind Sama. That's even better. Yahiko finally remembered what he came here for. He looked at Aizen with passion. Senpai, please join us. Aizen smiled. You don't even know my identity, origin, and personality, yet you want to invite me to join? That's not important. Yahiko looked at him with bright eyes. As long as we have the same dream, it's enough. I believe Senpai is also a dream chaser for peace. In this world, it's rare to see someone as pure as you. Aizen sighed. Then Senpai, do you agree? Yahiko asked excitedly. You have to give me some time to think about it. Aizen said helplessly. It seems I pushed you too hard. Yahiko laughed. But Senpai, don't think about sneaking away. Aizen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Why would I run away? That's the best. Like a bully, Yahiko put his hands on his hips and laughed as he left with Nagato. What a strange person. Kana complained. After making sure they were gone, Aizen released the mask. Then a few ghosts excitedly floated out of the mask. I didn't expect there to be people alive. Great. Sama, Aizen, why didn't you let us out? Are they not good people? Is that why you didn't let them meet the ancestors? Kana suddenly became alert. Although Nagato was from the same clan as her, compared to Aizen-sama's kindness, being from the same clan was nothing. Chapter 338. That's not it. Aizen shook his head slightly. It's just that they represent some kind of danger? They represent danger? What do you mean? The four Uzumaki were confused. Kana, tell your ancestors what you saw in Nagato's eyes. Aizen said. My fellow clansmen? Kana held her chin and muttered, now that I think about it, it's a bit strange. His eyes are different from ordinary people, there are circles of ripples around his pupils. She has only been in contact with the ninja world for a few days, so naturally she doesn't know many secrets, so she just felt strange. Circles of ripples? Yaya was shocked. Is it the legendary Rinnegan? Hearing this, the other three were shocked. What? The eyes of the legendary Rikudo Sannin? But isn't that a myth? Did you get the wrong person? Is it just an eye disease? However, Aizen shook his head slightly. No, I have confirmed it, it's the Rinnegan. That kind of eye is actually real. After the shock, Masaki couldn't help but ask, but isn't this a good thing? Why are you saying it's dangerous? Aizen said in a deep voice, although the Uzumaki have a strong physique, do you think it's reasonable to awaken a Kekkei Genkai? This. If it was the Uchiha or Hyuga who awakened the Rinnegan, it could be explained as a mutation, but in the Uzumaki it's a bit strange. Hearing Aizen's words, everyone was shocked. Indeed, because the Rinnegan has almost never appeared in the ninja world, they subconsciously ignored some details. But Masaki still had some doubts. But if he didn't awaken it by himself, is it possible that someone else transplanted it? In the ninja world, there are always people who snatch the Kekkei Genkai who gives their Kekkei Genkai to others. Not to mention, it's the Rinnegan that only exists in legends. Chishua nodded. Maybe one of his parents has the Rinnegan Kekkei Genkai? It just happened that the mutation was a bit far away. It's possible. Aizen's expression was dignified, so I was just worried before. Because of this concern, I left directly after saving them, but I didn't expect them to find me again. I agreed. After all, it's about the existence of Rinnegan, it's always right to be cautious. Kana was worried. Lord Aizen, why don't you reject them tomorrow? Refuse? Aizen pondered for a moment, then shook his head and smiled. If someone is really behind this, then I've already been noticed. In that case, I might as well take the initiative to participate. Speaking of which, I'm really curious about the Rinnegan. What about us? Dark Knight asked. Aizen didn't want them to be exposed, so he must have his own plans. Since I plan to stand in the open, I'll have to trouble you guys to stay in the dark and keep an eye out for me. In the future, I might even let you guys join this organization with new identities. Hearing this, the four of them heaved a sigh of relief. They were worried that Lord Aizen would target Nagato. At that time, both sides will have Uzumaki bloodline, and it will be very difficult for them. Now that they knew Aizen was doing this for the good of Nagato, they would spare no effort. Yes, we understand. The next day Yahiko and the other two came again. Uncle Aizen, have you thought about it? Yahiko said as he patted his chest. Our organization is now on the rise, you won't lose out if you join now. Before I make a decision, I have two small questions. What questions? Uncle Aizen, go ahead and ask. First question. Aizen asked. How many people does your organization have now? How far has it developed? Well? Yahiko scratched his nose and said proudly. Our organization has more than 200 people. Although it's not a lot, each one is an elite. As for the development, in short, it's on the rise. Second question. Aizen didn't think much about it and asked. If I join the organization, what will I be responsible for? Do I need to stay in the base all the time? Uncle Aizen, you'll be responsible for giving us advice. You can go anywhere you want. Yahiko smiled and patted Nagato's shoulder. Our organization has a remote communication method. Aizen nodded slightly. If that's the case, I agree. Ah, that's great. Yahiko cheered. By the way, Uncle, you should prepare to let Nagato use the lantern body jutsu to let you meet your other two companions. My other two companions? Aizen showed a trace of doubt. Those two guys, how should I say it? Although they don't look like good people, they have contributed a lot to the organization. So, I still gave them the status of core members. Uncle, you can't just join without them. Yahiko said. At the same time, in the underground cave of the grass country. Did you find out the origin of that Aizen who suddenly appeared? Bordered Soil asked. There's no trace at all. Black Zetsu was surprised. It's like that guy jumped out of a stone. There's no record of him. Interesting. Bordered Soil narrowed his eyes. I don't know where he came from, but he saved Yahiko and Nagato. Madara-sama, do you think there's a problem with this person? Black Zetsu asked. It's too much of a coincidence. There's no record of him for decades, but he appeared twice in 1 year. Bordered Soil said coldly. No matter how you think about it, it's a problem. You mean he wants to join the Akatsuki like us? That's what I think. But it's strange. The only thing that people covet is Nagato's Rinnegan. Black Zetsu was puzzled. If he wants Nagato's Rinnegan, he had a chance to save him last time. It's strange, but it's not without reason. For example, Bordered Soil's eyes were cold. He guessed the origin of Nagato's Rinnegan. What? Black Zetsu was shocked. In other words, his goal may be us. Bordered Soil calmly explained. Is that really the case? Let's see if he will join the Akatsuki. If he really joins the Akatsuki, we have to be careful. Of course, we don't have to be too afraid. Even if he guessed that there's a problem with Nagato's Rinnegan, he may not be able to link it to us. Black Zetsu pondered for a moment. If he really joins the Akatsuki, do we have to expose him in front of Yahiko? How do we expose him? Obito shook his head. If we're talking about suspicious, we're more suspicious than he is. Moreover, this invitation is the spontaneous action of Yahiko. They can't invite others, but we can't accuse others of having bad intentions. That's also true. Black Zetsu nodded, but he was also surprised. Why did he feel that Bordered Soil became smarter when he was scheming against others? If this guy was so sensitive about Rin's matter, maybe he would have noticed some unreasonable things at that time. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu was nervous. Some of the traces I left should be cleaned up, right? Bordered Soil didn't know what Black Zetsu was thinking. But it's okay to give them some trouble. Yahiko and the others didn't think too much about it because they didn't have enough information. But if I were to reveal some of the unreasonable points, we wouldn't even have to do anything, they would have already cracked. Chapter 339. Just as the two of them were talking, they suddenly received several waves of longing waves. Yahiko-san, since you are in such a hurry, it seems that you have successfully recruited new members. Black Zetsu laughed. Humph. Let's go in and see. Bordered Soil snorted and sat cross-legged. At this moment, in the illusion space. Lantern Body Jutsu? This ability is indeed very convenient. Aizen praised. The Lantern Body Jutsu didn't project the soul but the image of the body. Otherwise, Sasori wouldn't have projected the appearance of the puppet. Of course. Yahiko laughed. Nagato is very powerful. Aizen smiled and didn't answer. Soon, an aloe's head and a person wearing a whirlpool mask appeared in the illusion space. Yahiko's group of 3, Bordered Soil's group of 2 and Aizen's group of 6. Haha, our team is finally strong again. Yahiko laughed. Madara, Zetsu, let me introduce you, this is my new companion, Sosuke Aizen. Aizen was surprised. Madara? Haha, in fact he is a fanatical admirer of Uchiha Madara. You can call him Hoodlum by his real name. Yahiko explained. Bordered Soil's mouth twitched under his mask. In order to leave a deep impression on Nagato, he deliberately revealed his identity as Uchiha Madara. Although Yahiko suspected him, he didn't care at that time. After all, in his opinion, Yahiko was already a dead man. But who would have thought that Yahiko would miraculously escape? In order to dispel the other party's suspicion, he had to appear as Hoodlum, a fanatical admirer of Madara. His plan deviated a little. At first, he planned to control the Akatsuki behind the scenes, making them respect him as Uchiha Madara, but now it's different, he wants to appear in the shinobi world as a member of the Akatsuki, so using the identity of Uchiha Madara is somewhat inappropriate. Boss Yahiko, don't expose me. Hoodlum was driven mad as he wriggled his body like a maggot. I wanted to enjoy the shock of a newcomer. Haha, next time, definitely next time. Yahiko laughed. At first he thought it was a disguise, but as time passed he gradually realized that the other party was indeed a clown. How could such a person be Uchiha Madara? Sighing in his heart, Yahiko continued, now that everyone knows each other then? At this moment, Hoodlum suddenly raised his right hand and gestured wildly. Yahiko looked at him suspiciously. Hoodlum, is there a problem? I also don't want to question you, boss, but if he wants to join Akatsuki, then he must have some strength. Hoodlum crossed his arms and said unconvinced, I still don't know his strength. You clearly investigated more thoroughly than they did. Black Jew's heart was filled with disdain, but at the same time he was surprised. How did this guy manage to lie without any flaws? Yahiko wasn't angry. Hoodlum didn't know Uncle Aizen's strength, so his reaction was normal. Aizen-senpai is very powerful. Last time he saved us from Hanzo the Salamander, and this time he defeated a samurai in the Land of Iron with his swordsmanship. Amazing. Too amazing. Hoodlum's expression was exaggerated as he shouted. If the newcomer senpai is so powerful, why haven't I heard of him before? Why do I feel like he suddenly popped out from some unknown corner? Newcomer senpai? Conan couldn't help but ask. He is a newcomer and a senpai, so he is a newcomer senpai. Hoodlum pretended to be crazy. You want to use my identity to make them doubt me? Oh, what a bad boy. Aizen secretly laughed. Fortunately, I was prepared. He sighed bitterly. Because I'm an undead that doesn't belong to this era. Don't belong to this era? Undead? Everyone was puzzled. Yahiko shouted in horror. Uncle, are you dead? Oh, let me tell you a story. Aizen said, a long, long time ago before chakra existed, the rulers of this land weren't humans but gods, demons and sage. Humans could only rely on their physical strength to survive between the cracks of these gods. Later, an outsider who claimed to be a god came to this world and swept away the masters with absolute power. He also brought the chakra system to the humans. Everyone was grateful and worshipped the true god. They thought they could finally be reborn, but this happiness didn't last long. The god was corrupted by power and became a ferocious demon. He was crueler than the masters of the past and took everything away from the people. People began to resist, but it was useless. Instead, they angered the god and started a disaster. Everyone died, but for some reason one person fell into a deep sleep. When he opened his eyes again, the world had become very strange. There were no more people and even his enemies were gone. In order to understand the final outcome of the war, he began to frantically search for history. Although he didn't find anything, he learned a lot about the Uzumaki clan. Then he met you. Your belief in pursuing peace, and Nagato's similar experience made him leave his mark in this era for the first time. That's the whole story. Yahiko and the others were at a loss. Bordered Soil frowned slightly. Only Black Zetsu looked at him in shock. Everything is right. Is this guy really a fish that escaped Mother's net before the destruction of the world? Black Zetsu was shocked and suddenly his eyes widened. Wait, if he has experienced that era, he should know that his enemy has Rinnegan. I finally understand. He entered the Akatsuki to trace his enemy through Nagato's Rinnegan. That is Mother-sama. But isn't he afraid of being exposed? While Black Zetsu was pondering, Aizen chuckled. Just think of it as a story. Sometimes even I can't tell what's real and what's false. Maybe it's just a bad dream. However, Yahiko suddenly understood. No wonder Uncle said that you saved us because Nagato's experience was similar to yours. Then he said resolutely, Uncle, I will help you find the truth. Aizen was surprised. Do you believe me? Conan nodded sympathetically. No wonder Uncle is so strong, but you didn't want to say it at first. It must be because it brings back sad memories. Nagato also nodded. Senpai, did you untie the knot in your heart after saving Sister Chanel? Is that why you don't hide the fact that you used to be a samurai? Conan was surprised again. Uncle, your illusion is so powerful. You must want to see the difference between reality and illusion, right? So that's what I was thinking. Aizen looked at them strangely. Yes, I used to be a samurai. After waking up, I studied the mysteries of chakra. Now I've picked up swordsmanship again. After all, chakra is the power of that devil. If I only rely on chakra, I won't be her opponent even if I find her. Chapter 340. Yahiko scratched his head and said, It's been so many years, Uncle, your enemy should be dead by now, right? Aizen said with a smile, Who knows? But if you want to live, you have to find a goal for yourself. Bordered Soil frowned, although he instinctively felt that Aizen was talking nonsense, but thinking about it carefully, what Aizen said didn't seem to be unreasonable. Otherwise, how can such a powerful person not leave any trace in the ninja world? Moreover, in a world where ninjas are the mainstream, such a powerful swordsmanship. Go back and ask Zetsu as Madara's will, he should know more than me. I know. On the other side, Black Zetsu's pupils suddenly shrank. He said that he didn't find anything, but that's just his own statement. Maybe he already knows about my two bastard brothers. Think about it, he's a person who lived through that era, he knows how strong my mother is, and now that he found the Rinnegan in Nagato, he may guess that my mother is not dead, so he intends to use himself as bait to lure my mother out and expose her in front of my brother. It's a pity that he doesn't know that my mother is indeed sealed, and the one who really led Nagato is actually me, Black Zetsu. Thinking of this, Black Zetsu's eyes were dignified. Although it's just my guess, I must be vigilant against this guy. He can point out the loophole, that the enemy has the Rinnegan, but the problem is, how can he explain the history of the Rinnegan? It's really a headache. The illusion space was quiet for a moment as if digesting this shocking news. After a while, Yahiko continued, Back to the topic, Hoodlum, how is the development of your demon army? Hoodlum scratched his head and said, 1 2 is 2, 2 4 is 16, maybe 2,000? No, it's more like 3,000? Oh, in short, it's less than 100,000. At the beginning, he relied on the White Zetsu army to enter the Akatsuki. Of course, the reason he gave was that he wanted to use the power of the Ghetto Mazo to cultivate demons. Otherwise, it would be strange for him to shamelessly want to enter the Akatsuki, which is not very strong at the moment. Demon army? Aizen asked in a timely manner. It's a type of demonic creature that Hoodlum found. It can be used to nurture clones into the strength of an army. Yahiko said seriously, I don't want anyone to die, but to achieve peace, we must have enough power to deter those big countries. Maybe an army produced by these monsters can meet the requirements. Don't you want people to die? What a simple idea. Aizen said. But that won't be easy. 2,000 to 3,000 soldiers won't be able to intimidate those big countries. Yahiko sighed and looked at Hoodlum. What else do you need to build an army of 100,000 magical creatures? Hoodlum tilted his head. Yeah, what do you need? Yahiko's mouth twitched. I'm the one asking you. Hoodlum said aggrievedly, even if you ask me, I don't know. Ju laughed from the side. Let me say it. It should be money, territory, and time. Ju, tell me in detail. First of all, money. Using the ghetto golem to nurture demonic creatures also requires resources. Where are we going to get these resources? Of course, we can only buy them with money from those big countries. Next is territory. Whether it's to place an army or nurture demonic creatures, we need an independent territory. Otherwise, it's easy to be discovered by others. Finally, time. Nurturing these demonic creatures isn't something that can be done overnight. Only with enough time can we grow to the point where the entire ninja world will be afraid of us. Hoodlum nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Yes, that's what I think. Territory is easy, let's use the rain country. Nagato said with a murderous look. Let Hanzo experience the pain of losing something precious. Yahiko frowned. Hanzo isn't an ordinary person. As a former shinobi demigod, his every move is watched by the ninja world. If we kill him, won't we expose Akatsuki to everyone? At that time, it will be difficult for us to develop in secret. Nagato was depressed. Are we just going to let him go like this? Of course we can't let him go. Although Yahiko was kind, he didn't have a good impression of Hanzo, who almost killed the three of them. Didn't I deliberately threaten him recently so that he would take the initiative to retreat into the rain country? Wait until he completely disconnects from the outside world, let the outside world think that he's retired, then we will kill him. At that time, even if he dies, no one will notice. Nagato nodded. Let him live a little longer. At this time, Aizen suddenly said. Hanzo worked from the bottom step by step. With his vision, he may be able to see your thoughts. If you push him too hard, Nagato may be in danger. Nagato didn't care. It's okay, I have almost mastered the power of the Rinnegan. If we fight again, that bastard Hanzo won't be my opponent. I'm not talking about this. Aizen shook his head slightly. Nagato, you should have used the power of the Rinnegan when you scared Hanzo last time, right? Nagato hesitated and nodded. Yes. Ordinary people may not recognize your Rinnegan, but how can Hanzo not recognize it? The reason why he didn't let the news spread in the shinobi world is because he took a fancy to your eyes. Yahiko was shocked. You mean if Hanzo feels that the risk exceeds the benefits, he may spread the news of the Rinnegan? Aizen nodded. The Rinnegan is very powerful, but can you guarantee that you can avoid every attack? Yahiko pondered. Yes, I thought too simply. Nagato proposed. Let me kill him, if I attract attention I will cut off my connection with Akatsuki. Yahiko hesitated. But, actually I have an idea. Aizen smiled. I almost forgot, Uncle, I asked you to be my military counselor. Yahiko urged. Uncle, tell me your idea. In fact, the battle between Akatsuki and Hanzo has attracted a lot of attention. The best way to divert their attention from us is to let Hanzo kill us. Yahiko frowned, but he quickly reacted. I understand, control Hanzo, let him be the master of the Rain Kingdom, and then we can retreat behind the scenes and develop in secret. But how do we control Hanzo? Conan gently touched his chin. With Genjutsu? But can someone like Hanzo be controlled by Genjutsu? I'm familiar with this. Bordered Soil was about to recommend himself, but before he could speak, Aizen smiled and said, Let me try. Chapter 341. Conan was puzzled. Uncle, your Genjutsu is very powerful, but didn't you say last time that you might not be Hanzo's opponent? Aizen smiled. If I was alone, let alone controlling him, it would be difficult to defeat him. But with help, it would be different. Yahiko suddenly understood. I understand. We will attack together and beat Hanzo half to death, then uncle can control him. That's it. Aizen nodded. Hanzo is very strong. To be on the safe side, I suggest that the 6 of us attack together. Bordered Soil's mouth twitched. This guy had just joined the Akatsuki, and now he wants him to work for free? That's really powerful. Yes, if we let him escape we might be in trouble. Yahiko said and turned to the side. Hoodlum, are you okay? Bordered Soil forced a smile. Ha, of course, no problem. Very good, the problem of territory is solved. Yahiko nodded with satisfaction, then asked, speaking of funds, Conan, how much money do we have now? Aizen's expression was strange, letting Conan manage the finances. Wasn't he afraid that she would use the funds to buy explosive charms? Conan quickly replied, only 30 million. What? Yahiko was shocked. How can it be so little? He had previously bragged to the uncle that they were on the rise. Xiaonan sighed. After the war ended we lost a lot of employment. Our source of funds was broken, but the places where we spent money didn't decrease. We need money to cultivate monsters, buy weapons, and last time we fell into a trap and caused many of our companions to die. We also have to pay a large amount of compensation. Speaking of this, Yahiko's mood sank. This is my leader's fault, the compensation must be paid. Conan concluded, in short, if we continue like this in less than 2 months, we won't have any money left. Yahiko looked distressed. Increase sources of income and reduce expenditure. In the current situation, there's no way to reduce expenditure, so we can only think of ways to increase sources of income. Everyone, do you have any ways to make money? Bordered Soil was speechless. An organization that wants to subvert the order of the shinobi world is talking about ways to make money here. The situation suddenly dropped. Hoodlum, do you have any ideas? Bordered Soil whistled. Boss Yahiko, don't ask me to make money. I'm only good at spending money. I'm good at this too, Yahiko said with a dark face. Black Zetsu instigated. Miss Angel, don't you know paper ninjutsu? Can't you just print some fake money? Fake money? Conan panicked. I can't do that. Yahiko shook his head. Fake banknotes will only harm the people at the bottom. This is not in line with the beliefs of the organization. Black Zetsu laughed. Then I can't do anything. Nagato was silent for a moment. We'll meet 3 days later at the base of the Rain Country. Hoodlum, you've been there so I won't go into details. The meeting ended. Under the land of grass. Bordered Soil opened his eyes and stood up. An undead that doesn't belong to this era? Oh, interesting. Black Zetsu, what do you think? Black Zetsu was silent for a moment. I can't see through it. Bordered Soil turned around. You can't see through it? Although I'm not sure if what he said is true or not, Madara-sama has studied it. Chakra may not have existed in the beginning. It was the Six-Path Senpai who brought chakra to this world. Six-Path Senpai? Bordered Soil frowned under his mask. You mean the one who fell from god to demon is the Six-Path Senpai? After silently throwing the blame on the Six Paths, Black Zetsu sighed. I don't know, but this person is too mysterious. Before we get more information, we'd better not provoke him. Chapter 342. In the sky it was drizzling. Hanzo stood in front of the window with his hands behind his back and asked, What's the Akatsuki's movement recently? A Jonin stood behind him and respectfully said, It's the same as before, as long as we leave the village they will attack us crazily. Oh, they really don't relax at all. Hanzo chuckled and waved his hand, You can go first. Yes. When the room was quiet again, Hanzo secretly thought, Is it because of my cautious character that they want to push me to a dead end step by step? However, this may be an opportunity for me. As long as I show fear, those arrogant brats will most likely look down on me, and this is enough time for me to arrange a trap for them. Hanzo thought like this and suddenly felt uneasy. The surroundings were too quiet, so quiet that he couldn't even hear the sound of the crowd outside. Something's wrong. Hanzo's pupils shrank. He quietly opened the window, intending to escape from the window. But as soon as he jumped out of the window, he was pushed back into the room by a repulsive force. Then the door suddenly opened. Conan stood at the door and raised his hand. Hundreds of paper shurikens shot out. Yahiko put the oil made from chakra in his mouth and used the oil ball more powerful than ordinary fire release. The bursting flame ignited the paper shurikens and turned them into flaming shurikens that rushed toward Hanzo. Although he was pushed back by the repulsive force and couldn't borrow any force in the air, Hanzo was a former demigod, and his combat experience was not comparable to Yahiko. In this disadvantageous situation, he still calmly made hand seals and spouted a stream of water from his mouth, letting the water tightly wrap around him. The flaming shurikens were quickly extinguished after being shot into the stream of water, and the kinetic energy of the shurikens was reduced a lot by the stream of water, so it didn't have much power when it fell on Hanzo's body. Ha, that was close. Hanzo breathed a sigh of relief, but suddenly he felt something strange growing on his body. What is this? Is it absorbing my chakra? Looking at the white bloated thing that tightly bound him, Hanzo's face slightly changed. He made hand seals with his bound right hand and spouted a flame from his mouth to ignite the spore. How decisive. Aren't you afraid of burning yourself? Just as he was laughing, a voice rang out in the room. Would release, cutting technique. What? Would escape? Hanzo's expression changed greatly. Would release was now Shimizu Garashi's symbol. Impossible. With Shimizu Garashi's strength, there is no need for him to team up with others to attack me. However, a few wooden arrows shot towards him at an extremely fast speed. What? It's really would release. Feeling uneasy, Hanzo couldn't dodge in time and a wooden arrow brushed past his shoulder. Before he could catch his breath, a slight sound of something breaking through the air came from behind him. Hanzo barely managed to hold the scythe horizontally behind him, but a powerful force came from the point of contact and threw him away. Hanzo crashed through the wall and fell into the mud. 6 figures walked out of the rain. These bastards cough. Looking at the 6 people surrounding him, Hanzo's face was very ugly. In the confrontation just now, he almost figured out the approximate strength of the other side. The weakest one was an elite jonin, Konin Yahiko. The aloe head and the masked man were also very strange. One quietly planted strange things on him, and the other one can use would release. As for Nagato and the samurai, one has Rinnegan, and their overall strength is even above him, and the other one's swordsmanship is fierce, even he can't resist. Such an opponent is very difficult to deal with even if there is only one person, let alone 6 people working together. Oh, you really think highly of me? Hanzo coughed blood, his face gloomy. Where are my men? Don't worry, I'm not as cruel as you, they just fell asleep. Yahiko said. Genjutsu? Hanzo asked in a deep voice. Yes, Uncle Aizen used genjutsu to control them. Konin said. Aizen? Hanzo frowned. The last time you came back to attack Nagato, it was Uncle Aizen who saved us from you. Yahiko explained. Last time? Hanzo was startled, his frowning brows immediately relaxed. It turned out to be him. Aizen smiled slightly, even Hanzo himself didn't know that he was in a genjutsu. Letting Hanzo admit it himself was naturally for the sake of concluding the story at that time. After all, there were still some flaws in his lie if one were to examine it carefully. However, Yahiko didn't think much about it. After listening to Hanzo's confession, Konin chuckled softly. It seems that you didn't tell anyone about your shameful deeds, otherwise if they were on guard, Uncle's genjutsu wouldn't have succeeded so easily. Humph. So much nonsense. Hanzo's eyes were fierce. If you want to kill me, at least 1 or 2 of you will die with me. Do you have this awareness? You think too highly of yourself. Nagato said coldly. Do you think it's the same as before? Seeing that his threat failed, Hanzo calculated in his heart. Among these 6 people, Yahiko and the other 2 are in a group, Aloe Head and the masked man are in a group, and Aizen is alone. In terms of numbers, it seems that Aizen's group is the best to break through, but his physical fitness seems to be the strongest, so it will be difficult to break through. Hanzo's eyes moved to Bordered Soil's group. Although their abilities are strange, they look sneaky. Maybe they are the easiest to deal with, especially the masked man. His would release isn't as powerful as the rumors say. Let's start with him. Thinking of this, Hanzo suddenly erupted and rushed straight towards Obito. Bordered Soil, who was paddling in the water, was startled and subconsciously shot a cutting technique at Hanzo. Hanzo, who was prepared, naturally wouldn't be hurt so easily. He made a seal with one hand and used the body flicker technique to dodge the attack, then appeared in front of Bordered Soil and waved his scythe. Bordered Soil subconsciously wanted to use the void to avoid the attack, but when he thought of Aizen, he forced himself to resist. He was quite afraid of the mysterious Aizen and naturally didn't want to expose his ability. Moreover, he wasn't the one who would benefit in the end, so why should he go all out? He didn't want to do such a thankless thing. However, Hanzo seemed to be entangled with him, withstanding the attacks of the other 5 people and using all his strength to beat him. Bordered Soil was still too immature, and without using his Mangekyo, he was far from being Hanzo's opponent. In just a few seconds he was surrounded by danger. Damn, why do you keep staring at me? Bordered Soil was depressed. He wasn't Hanzo's enemy and he didn't ruin Hanzo's plans, so why did this bastard keep chasing him? Aizen, on the other hand, was paying attention to Obito's movements. Hanzo had his eyes on Obito because of Aizen's influence. After all, Bordered Soil was an important chess piece. Such a chess piece had to be paid attention to at all times to prevent him from going out of control. Chapter 343. Damn, what's wrong with this bastard? Why does he keep chasing me? Do you think that I'm the weakest in this group of people? Obito was so angry that he couldn't care less about it. Seeing Hanzo rushing towards him, Obito didn't seem to be able to escape. He stood still with a panicked look on his face. Go to hell. Hanzo waved his scythe. I'll let you taste my hollow. Bordered Soil's eyes were cold. He was about to use his ability when he was suddenly pushed back by a powerful repulsive force. Boom. Seeing that hoodlum was heavily blasted into the distance, dodging the attack, Nagato said coolly, "You're welcome." Bordered Soil was in pain as he stood up. When he heard Nagato's words, he almost rushed to kill him. Seeing that his plan was ruined by Nagato, Aizen shook his head slightly. Forget it, I'll use another method. For example, I'll invite the ghost mermaid first, then wait for the Bordered Soil to reveal the truth. I'll let the Bordered Soil think that he has subdued the ghost mermaid, but in fact, he's just a messenger. Thinking of this, Aizen didn't hold back anymore. Taking advantage of the fact that Hanzo was also sent flying by the repulsive force, he quickly rushed forward and lightly thrust his sword at the other side. You want me to? Hanzo stabilized his body in the air and was about to dodge when suddenly a gravitational force acted on him. Wansho Heaven's Pull. Nagato tacitly activated his ability, pulling Hanzo towards the tip of the sword. Damn it. I forgot he has gravity. Although Hanzo reacted in time and stabbed his scythe into the ground to resist the gravitational force, Aizen didn't just stand there and watch. He used teleportation jutsu and stabbed his sword into Hanzo's chest. Am I going to die? Don't worry, you won't die. While Hanzo's consciousness was fading, he used genjutsu. This is genjutsu? No, you don't want to kill me, you want to control. Seeing Hanzo's eyes go from struggling to confusion, Yahiko couldn't help but feel relieved. Finally, this guy is under control. Conan sighed. He's worthy of being a shinobi demigod. He can still burst out such a powerful force under the siege of 6 of us. A shinobi demigod has this kind of strength. I don't know how strong Garashi, the god of shinobi, is. Nagato muttered to himself. When I fully master the power of the Rinnegan, can I reach his level? Aizen said as he treated Hanzo's injuries. Get ready, we're going to set up a scene where you'll be killed. Understood. Yahiko made a gesture to spare the lives of the ranged shinobi, not only because he didn't want to kill more, but also because he wanted them to witness the end of the Akatsuki. Is the body of the modified monster ready? Don't worry, I'll make sure you all die horribly. That's good. Yahiko patted his head. Why does it sound so strange? Seeing that everyone was busy again, Obito's heart was filled with grief and indignation. No one cared about him. He was the only one who was injured in this operation. Boom, boom. Thunder roared as if it was going to blow a hole in the sky. Oh, it's so noisy. Garo murmured while rubbing his eyes. Suddenly he froze. Wait, shouldn't I be patrolling? How can I fall asleep? Garo quickly woke up and found that there were many people around him who were asleep, like him. Wake up, wake up. He pushed a few times but there was no response. Is it a genjutsu? Thinking of this, he quickly sent his chakra into the bodies of the people around him. Well, what's wrong with me? Good morning. It's an enemy attack, someone used genjutsu to control us. Garo urged. Hurry to Hanzo-sama's room. Everyone quickly moved and ran to Hanzo's room, only to find that it was a mess. The wall here was knocked down, it should have come from here. Everyone rushed outside and was shocked by the scene in front of them. The original forest was destroyed, the ground was crisscrossed with cracks, and the air was filled with the smell of burned flesh. Hanzo-sama is there. Hearing the voice, everyone found Hanzo sitting on a rock with a pale face. There was a terrible hole in his chest. Hanzo-sama, are you okay? Rushing to Hanzo's side, a group of hidden rain ninjas worriedly asked. Medical scrolls, give me medical scrolls. Hanzo stared and shouted. Everyone hurriedly took out medical scrolls to treat him. After tearing 4 medical scrolls in a row, Hanzo's face finally recovered a trace of color. At this time, everyone had the time to look around. They saw that there were broken limbs everywhere, and the muddy road was dyed red with blood. Hanzo-sama, these are? Hanzo coldly snorted, these are the 3 leaders of the Akatsuki. These 3 bastards are really powerful. Even in the battle with Shimizu Garashi, I didn't suffer such a serious injury, fortunately. I won in the end. Everyone carefully identified. Indeed, they could vaguely see that these were the bodies of the 3 leaders. Great, these bastards are finally dead. With the leaders dead, it will be much easier to deal with the remaining members of the Akatsuki. After the excitement, a ninja asked, Hanzo-sama, how should we deal with these bodies? Hanzo's eyes were cold. Throw these bodies into the incinerator, don't leave any trace for them. After all, they were the products of White Zetsu's clone, only the body shape and appearance were the same. If someone really wanted to compare their DNA, they would quickly find the difference. The group of Hidden Rain ninjas didn't think much. They only thought that Hanzo-sama hated the leaders of the Akatsuki. Yes, we will do it. In the distance, Yahiko looked at his body being cleaned like garbage. He felt a little sad. Oh, I died so miserably. Nagato said in a deep voice, anyway, we can finally go underground. Conan asked, what should we do in the future? Hanzo is the one being controlled, his men are still conscious. This is easy. I will let Hanzo learn from the 5 great ninja villages and establish an umbu. Aizen said methodically, at that time, let the members of the Akatsuki wear masks and join the umbu, then separate a secret area for the umbu to manage. Umbu? This is a good idea. Yahiko laughed twice and immediately said, then we will invite those 3 to join the Akatsuki. Zetsu asked, what if they don't want to join? Our organization is to bring love and peace to the world. If they don't agree, Yahiko said with a holy face, then it must be that their understanding of love is not deep enough, and they need to be educated about love. Chapter 344. In the Land of Wind, under the endless sand sea. A young man with red hair was fiddling with a puppet in front of him. Sure enough, it's still not working. Really, I wanted to keep that guy as a precious collection, but with my current strength, if I really meet him, I'll most likely become his collection. Thinking of the man named Shimizu Garashi, even Sasori, who didn't have many human emotions, felt a slight wave in his heart. If I want to have the power to protect myself in front of that man, unless I get the body of Hashirama or Uchiha Madara, otherwise even if I use those Kage's bodies as materials, it will be useless in front of him. Since it's difficult to improve the quality of the puppets, maybe I should work on the quantity. Of course, the quality of these puppets can't be too bad, at least they should be able to withstand that guy's normal attacks. Just as he was lost in his thoughts, his subordinates walked in. Sasori, Sama, we just received a piece of information. I think it may be useful to you. Sasori said while fixing the puppet. Tell me what information. Just a few days ago, some of the puppets of Sand Crypsis defected, and when they fled to the border between the Land of Wind and the Land of River, they were caught by the Sand Crypsis. A puppet troop defected. Perhaps thinking of his own experience, Sasori stopped what he was doing and listened carefully. That defected ninja was going to lose, but maybe his luck was better. Their battle triggered an ancient mechanism and several of them fell into it. When they found the traitorous ninja again, the traitorous ninja found a stranger from who knows where. After the ore was embedded in the puppet, the strength of the puppet suddenly increased several times, and the puppet master was able to escape. That defected ninja knew the value of the ore, so the first thing he did after escaping was to spread the news, most likely to cause trouble for the Sand Crypsis, so that they won't be able to spare extra energy to deal with him. After that, his subordinate added, according to the information from our spies in the Sand Crypsis, there is indeed a change in the Sand Crypsis, and the reliability of the information should not be low. Stranger. Just by embedding it on the puppet, it can increase the puppet's strength. The corner of Scorpion's mouth rose slightly. Interesting. His subordinate asked eagerly, Sir Scorpion, should we send some people to fight for the ores? If the Sand Crypsis is really going to take action, you won't be able to compete with them, Scorpion said calmly. Let me do it myself. His subordinate's eyes were filled with worship. Since you're personally taking action, there naturally won't be any problems. That's hard to say. Scorpion shook his head slightly. Don't you think it's too much of a coincidence that it's a treasure that's useful to the puppet masters and that it appeared at the border between the country of River and the country of Wind? His subordinate was shocked. You mean this is a trap set by the Sand Crypsis? It's just a possibility. Scorpion's voice was calm. After all, I'm the biggest stain in the eyes of Sand Crypsis. Although he had some doubts, he wasn't worried. With his current strength, as long as he didn't encounter a monster like Shimizu Garashi, even if a team of Jonins came, they wouldn't be able to do anything to him. His subordinate was hesitant. Speaking of which, I did hear another news. Scorpion frowned slightly. What other news? I heard that Shimizu Garashi seems to be in the Sand Crypsis now. Shimizu Garashi. Scorpion's eyes jumped wildly. What he was afraid of really happened. How could he be in the Sand Crypsis? It said that the Yondaime Kazekage asked him to use Mokutan to change the environment of the Country of Wind. His subordinate suggested. Why don't you wait for Shimizu Garashi to leave the Sand Crypsis before snatching the ore? Scorpion was silent for a long time before he asked. Does the ore really have that effect? His subordinate replied, in order to make what he said more credible, that rebellious ninja publicly showed the power of the ore. From this point of view, it should be true. I don't know how long it will take for him to leave. If the ore enters the Sand Crypsis, even I will have a hard time snatching things from the hinterland of a big ninja village. Scorpion muttered to himself for a while and ordered, you exaggerate the role of the ore and let more people enter the ruins. His subordinate quickly responded. Yes. Sand Crypsis village at the banquet. A group of Sand Crypsis ninjas were enthusiastically flattering. Garashi-sama is so powerful that even the existence of Kyubi can be easily suppressed. And Kazekage-sama, his deep wisdom like the starry sky really makes us ashamed. Raza was indeed very proud. At that time, he agreed to Garashi using the undeveloped Mokutan as one of the conditions for participation in the war. Many people said that he was brainless behind his back, saying that he was cowardly and compromised. He even agreed to such an obvious condition. But now, being brainless has become far-sighted, and cowardly compromise has become decisive and wise. And for Garashi as the loser, no one dared to despise him. People with discerning eyes know that the person who can really decide the fate of Woodleaf is not the Naruto sitting in the Naruto building, but the boss in front of them. If he gets tired of playing the game by the rules, he can easily replace Naruto, and even subvert the rules of the ninja world is not impossible. If the boss in front of them doesn't want to play anymore and overturns the table to make new rules, what can they do? Just close the door and release the Kyubi. No one can resist. Therefore they naturally have to flatter each other, make the boss happy, and don't have any bold ideas. You are good, I am good, everyone is good, this is a harmonious world. Garashi, it's not that I want to criticize you. Raza put his arm around Garashi's shoulder and said, you went back for so long and didn't come to our Sand Crypsis. The little guys in the school miss you very much. Garashi smiled. It's rare that they still remember me. By the way, Woodleaf, do you want us to protest? Raza looked unsatisfied. You are the honorary consultant of our Sand Crypsis. If you are treated unfairly, we Sand Crypsis will not agree. The surrounding Sand Crypsis Jonin looked at him strangely. Wasn't this the proposal of the spy? Last time you said that someone's ass was crooked, why are you using it yourself? Garashi shook his head slightly. No, this is also a rare opportunity for me to cleanse my soul and truly see myself clearly. Raza of course knew that Garashi would not agree, but on the surface he still looked regretful. Garashi, you are too kind. If it was me. Forget it, if you don't have a good time in Woodleaf, the door of Sand Crypsis will always be open for you. A group of Sand Crypsis ninjas' eyes lit up, as expected of the Kazekage-sama. He easily said what they didn't dare to say. Garashi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. There is no need to consider this. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.